Add myself to. Oh my goodness. I am so sorry. Oh boy. I cannot believe you guys waited around. I am so sorry. All right. I'm not going to lie to you. I am going to tell you the truth. After the last live I did, I stretched out on my couch and I fell asleep. So I'm not going to lie about that. I'm just going to pull up the burn pit trial here. Oh my goodness, I have never been late. I am so sorry. Here we go. Let's get this over here. Let me share this screen. Now, do we have anyone in here that hasn't watched this? Because I know Shiraz hasn't seen it.
Back into their feed. All right.
Oh, let me pause this. Fashionably late. Yeah. We're educated from your paycheck. Oh, thank you. So I just want to say hello, Latu. Hello, Claudia. Hello, Happy. So I know. First watch for you. Okay, Happy. Now I'm just going to tell you what we're going to do so we can get through it faster. Any sidebars, any breaks, anything like that, I will just fast forward through. Hey, B Rabbit. Hi, all. We'll be listening. Thank you. Bob, I understand what you're saying, but there was a lot of men. Oh, imagine her pen pals. I'd like to know how many are men writing her. At Bob from accounting, she has her wrestling girl. Hello, Irene. Okay, we're going to start. I will fast forward through all the dry stuff.
And all right, so here's what I told them about. They got everything set up in the courtroom. I'm not crazy about it. It's not the way I wanted to handle it. And I'll probably do things differently next time, but we've gotten a new system since then that should be able to handle all this because we already have cameras in the courtroom, as y'all can see. But the feed is not set up the way that I think we could do it the way it needs to be handled, but maybe I can do that next time, and definitely going to do something different with the audio. But anyway, we'll deal with that next time y'all come in or want another courtroom. To the extent that anyone wants to take photographs, y'all can take photographs in the courtroom. If y'all want to take photographs of the defendant coming in or leaving, that's fine. Don't get anything with the jury. That's the biggest thing. We identified them when we gave them their number paddles, but after that, we've been referring to them by number. They don't want to be involved in this process and be publicly introduced to anyone. So keep them out of it. If you are going to want to do any kind of coverage outside the building or even in the hallways in the building, my goal is to be as cooperative with y'all as possible. All right. I just want to know where you're going to be and where you're going to be doing something. And I want you to check in with the court administrator's office. And I think Mandy Grizzle.
So I'm just going to stop it there because this is the first court case I've ever heard a judge say, if you want to take pictures inside the courtroom, that is fine. Just don't take pictures of the jurors. I've never heard a judge say that, so I'm just going to get straight to the openings here.
Yeah, they'll get the notepads while I'm doing the instructions.
We're going to get right through the instructions.
Decide the case in their favor. Asking you questions about what kind of case, what case is it, who the judge is.
Oh, he's watching. I'm listening.
All right, this is something that I've been doing
watching the chat.
For almost every trial that I give. We swear our bailiffs in for the term. A term in Cherokee County is 4 months, but
yes, there is, Armand. I see there's an update on the Kentucky sheriff case. Are you talking about what Ashley Beneful? I always get her name wrong. Had put out. About possible things with the judge. I won't wreck it for anybody if they haven't heard it yet.
So, about how often do you need a break? Can you get by with one in the afternoon? Okay. All right. So,
this trial, what you have to do is you have to shrink the world. When you see the evidence, this is Cherokee County. They don't have a lot of murders. They definitely don't have a lot of murders when someone's shot and put on burn pile.
We're just jumped right to the opening statements. You didn't miss any. We just got there.
Shrink the world. And when you shrink the world, you're going to come to one conclusion and one answer of who. Not what happened, not how it happened, but who did it. And she's near. Frankie, she don't mind. If I can get this technology working, Megan's going to help me here. I want to move.
King of Breaks. Absolutely, Latu. He was King of Breaks. Is Judge a smoker? I don't know. Where's that famous song? Smoker, toker, midnight. I can't remember the other words. I would say that's Mr. Cannon. Judge Cannon. My favorite news today is Lori will represent herself. It'll be fantastic theater. Yes, it's going to be. Absolutely. And the update on the sheriff was that there is actual audio tape of a woman that was in custody talking about how the judge was doing sexual favors in his chambers for people to get, what was the word, special favors, like say they couldn't afford their ankle monitor every month. They would go into his chambers and perform their special favors for that ankle monitor. Midnight Toker. Thank you, B Rabbit. I couldn't think of the smoker, joker, midnight toker. That would be, I would almost bet, Judge Cannon. So we'll get back to this.
I'll talk loudly so everybody can hear me, but what I want to do is, as we go through this, be comfortable, be at peace as you go through this evidence. Relax and listen to what there is. I know there's a lot going on, but you are the most important people in this matter. It does not matter what I say. It does not matter what the defense says. It matters what does the evidence say? What does it speak? Let me introduce you to the Farris family. You'll see in front of you there's the family line, the lineage. You'll see on the screen here there's a photograph. You see Gary. Thank you. You see Gary is in this picture, and this is a happy time. This is Emily, the bride in the middle, a daughter. This was a wedding, I think, about 2 years before the murder, 2016. You see Gary is in this picture. He's standing there with his wife, the defendant. Now, there are 4 children. And as you go through this, you're going to probably take notes because you hear the same names over and over again. You're going to hear about the Farris. You're going to hear about the Farris will. Unfortunately for this family is they have drama. They are not a perfect family. My family is imperfect. Everybody's family is. They didn't ask for their life experiences and the good and the bad and ugly to come in, but that's what the evidence is going to show. And I have to present it. I have great sympathy, everybody does, for families like this. But the evidence is going to show what was going on in their family. It's going to be the good, the bad, and the ugly, just like anything else. Most families, however, don't consist of murder. Now, in this family, you're going to see Chris. On the right side of the screen, you see Gary and Melody. To the right, as we look at, is Chris. He's the oldest, probably about 37. On the other side is Scott. Scott's about 35. Chris was living, in many ways, his own life. He was married, had his own kids. You hear about the kids. They're going to be here. You're going to hear about Ella and Ashton, the grandkids. Scott was in the military over Iraq. He came back for a while, lived on the property, worked the property. Had kind of an agreement with his dad that he would work the land and he would get paid. He didn't have a job really after he came back, and then he ended up with the family. But that was his agreement with his dad. Gary was a very generous man, loved his family. So you had the 2 guys, the 2 sons, Chris and Scott. Then you had the 2 girls, Emily in the middle and Amanda beside her. Amanda was the youngest, the baby, if you would. They were probably around 30, 28, around those age. Gary and Melody got married at a young age. I think it was around 20, 38 years, almost 39. They were married for a long time. They were together, Alabama, small family. Gary worked hard. You're going to learn a lot about Gary. You're going to learn a lot about Melody.
Absolutely.
What you're going to learn is the evidence is going to show that they're both, I dare say, brilliant. He practiced law, corporate law. He went to the University of Alabama. I think he graduated first in his class. Extremely smart, introverted. The defendant, she liked the life of being married to a rich lawyer. Gary did so well. He was in Alabama. The firm he worked for, corporate law, real estate law, things like that, very successful. They sent him to the Atlanta area here to open up an office for the firm. Did very good. Very smart, worked his way up. I think he ended up being a senior partner. Very smart, loved his job. One thing with lawyers, the longer they do it, the longer they get better at it, the more they get better at it, and they stay at it. But sometimes what they do is they don't interact with, because they interact with people all day long. Oftentimes when they get home, they get close, they get small. And Gary's like that. In their wedding, their marriage, they had some issues that we're going to talk about. And it looks like they were happy here. It was about 2016, but there was a lot going on behind the scenes. Gary, you could set the clock to his routine and his habits. He's one of those guys. The question you got to answer in this trial is not was he murdered, not how was he murdered, but who did it. The evidence demands the answer that he was murdered. He was shot and killed, put on a burn pile, this burn pile, behind his house. His remains were found. Not much. Gary was a big guy, about 6'4", 300 pounds, give or take. About 33 pounds remained.
They sure did look like their dad.
When you shrink the world, no robbery, no home invasions, no enemies, no road rage, nothing like that. When you shrink the world, in a case like this, husband and wife, wife kills husband, husband dies. The answer to the question, who did it, sits right there. Melody Farris. Let me talk to you about their property. They were affluent. Where I grew up in South Carolina, we say they're rich. They were rich. He made a lot of money. He would make probably hundreds and hundreds of $1,000s a year. Sometimes his paychecks, even after you take all the taxes out, $20,000. They'd have profit sharing and things like that. He made a lot of money. This property that they lived on in Purcell, 2511 Purcell Lane, Cherokee County, it's a hobby farm. If you see, there's actually a road coming down Purcell Lane, and you see that white area, that's dirt. They had horses. If you go up the driveway, it's along the trees at the bottom, and then there's a driveway in the middle of this photograph. That's to the barn where Scott stayed. Now, the family had trouble. Chris had some issues with drinking. He got in an argument with his mom about a year for this. He said something along the lines that Chris was going to beat her to a pulp, put her in a pine box or something along those lines. That's what she says. No, he says. But they had a problem. Scott got back from the military, was living there, getting money from his dad. Emily was married. She had a husband. Melody didn't like. He got in some financial troubles, some legal troubles, criminal troubles. Amanda was young. And they all took money from their dad. Not in the bad sense, but he had money. He was willing to do with it. And he gave him a hard time. When you going to get a job? When you going to pay this back? Those type of things.
Yes, I did, man.
House, I believe it's worth the property more than $1 million. Now, when you go through your notes, you think about this. We know this case. And sometimes we have to slow down because you don't know the places where this occurred. And the murder occurred in this house. The shooting occurred in the house, in the kitchen, down to the basement. Now, as you look at this house, it's kind of unique in the sense that there's 2 or 3 car garage right here. But as you look at this photograph, you'll see the front. If you go to where that pine tree is, go right behind that pine tree. That's the front. This is looking, if you're kind of looking, if the pond was behind you, you're looking up at what I would call the front, but it's not. It's really the side. I think it's kind of like the east side.
It's a beautiful.
But it's got a deck there. It's a circular deck. And under that deck was where Gary stayed. The basement or the ground level was Gary's domain. That house was the defendant's. She had everything she wanted. It's immaculate. She liked to live the lifestyle. Furs, coats, jewelry, nice paintings, nice furniture, things like that. That was her domain. And she was a go-getter. She was tough. She got after it. She cleaned. Almost OCD to the point that she cleaned. Her house was beautiful. Gary lived in the bottom. He had a bedroom down there. He had a CPAP. He slept in that CPAP every night. We want to talk about that. But he stayed down in the bottom. If you kind of walk out, you see where that starts to go on the right side. There's an oval where it juts out. Below that's 2 doors. You won't hear me talk about it. You probably hear me chuckle at some point. There's doors that slide open like this to where he would have his couch and his TV and things like that. I call them American doors because right to the right are French doors. Just how I remember. And you can walk out that American doors, and when you come out there, if you turn left, that's where the burn pile is. This is over by the barn looking back towards the house. They had horses. This is nice property. This is the barn. This is where Scott stayed. Scott stayed on top, basically being an employee of his dad. Scott wanted the property, loved the property, liked the property, loved the horses. He was invested in it. He was thinking to move on one day and get another job, but he was locked in this property. And he and his mom worked. They made bicker and things like that, but they worked the property. They did a lot of work. And he lived in that barn there on the top. This is back to the house, transitioning back to the house. If you walk in that front door, this is what you see. Now, as you walk in, you're going to see evidence. If you walk in that front door, and I'm staring at the steps, and I turn right, you're going to go to what I call the kitchen table. If you turn left, there's a bathroom. If you go straight, you're going to go down the hallway to the master bedroom. This is the master bedroom. That door right there, you can walk out and go to the balcony. And that's where that oval porch was. You can stand out over that and look. You can look at the pond. Study room, library, very nice. Very fluent. This is the dining area, looking out towards the pond. Nice. This is the kitchen. This is the doorway from the kitchen to the basement. You go down the basement. To the left here, if you look at the picture, there's that light switch and whatnot, and there's that cabinet. Right around the corner is the steps you come down. It's 12 steps down, the landing, 4 steps down. You come down that landing, you stand right there. If you're standing off the steps, you get off the steps, you look straight forward, you're going to look at that bar. This is looking back from the, kind of to the side of the American doors, looking back towards the bar. As you look at this picture, to the right is a hallway. You go down that hallway was Gary's office, where he'd hang out and do stuff, work. He'd like to get up in the morning. Because he was a partner, because he'd been doing so long, because he had those routines, he would get up and go check email. To say that Gary Farris was a workaholic is an understatement. The man's like a lot of attorneys. Check the emails at night, vacation, it doesn't matter. He's working, he's checking the email, he's busy. He has such patterns and routines you can set your clock by. So as you look here, you go to right to his office. To the left, if you go to the left, there's a hallway that goes to his bedroom. Now, you may want to write these dates down. In July of 2018, we're going to focus on 3 main dates. July 3rd, July 4th, and July 5th. You're going to hear us talk about Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Y'all, when I do trials, I am not perfect. I'll mess up names and dates and times, but this is what we're talking about. I'll catch myself and say, I didn't mean 2020, I meant 2018. What we want to do, again, this trial is not about being perfect. It's about the truth, to be authentic. When we did jury selection, you heard me say to be authentic. These are the dates we're going to focus on, July 3rd, 4th, and 5th. And I just want to kind of give an overview of some of the evidence. This is not all the evidence. You're going to hear a lot of evidence, including evidence that we're not going to present. But this is Tuesday, July 3rd. We don't know exactly when Gary was killed, and we don't have to prove that. The evidence does not require us to prove the exact time that Gary was shot and killed. But we have a very good idea. Tuesday night around 10 p.m. most likely. Last time he used that CPAP was Tuesday morning. A little after midnight, he got on it. He got up that morning and turned it off. And that machine, when they did a search warrant, shows the times. He's not going to bed without that CPAP. He never used it again. We have no reading that was used again. Now, on Tuesday around lunchtime, Gary had an interesting relationship with his family. They had some good times, but it was also different. I don't know about y'all, if I go to a restaurant and I see a friend or family, I'm going to go up and say, hey, Tom, we're going to hang out, we're going to do stuff. Especially this is my dad. Well, on Tuesday, Scott and the defendant were working, and they decided to go to lunch. They went to Cherokee Ranch restaurant, a local restaurant. While they were there, Gary was already there. He pays his bill, and he leaves, and doesn't say a word to him. And that's not uncommon, because their relationship is not a touchy-feely type of relationship in this family. That's not this family. They communicate a lot by text messages, emails, instead of just calling and talking. That afternoon, Scott went to a lake house. He was there that afternoon and evening. There's a text asking about sleeping over for Aston, which is Chris's daughter, the grandchild. There's a text from her, from the defendant, saying, what about tomorrow night, not tonight? And that was going to show that the defendant loved her grandchildren. If they were close or she could get to them, she would get to them, but not this time. There was a visit Big Daddy and Grandma. That's what they called Gary, Melody. Big Daddy, Grandma. Chris and Aston came over that night. Gary was getting the burn pile ready to go. He liked to burn things. He liked to do it. They were there talking to him, seeing what he's doing, and they left that night because couldn't stay, and so they went back. About 10:52 p.m., there's a phone call between the defendant and Scott, and it was basically the defendant saying, the horses are out, when you coming home? Scott's with his friends. He's down the lake or whatnot. She's calling, when you coming home? The horses are out. He gets home, Scott does, about 11:30. Sees the burn pile's burning. I think he says something along, I see Dad's burning the burn pile, or he's burning the burn pile, something like that. Wednesday morning, Scott gets a debit card from his mom because he's going to go play golf. He has this thing on 4th of July that he would play golf, he and his buddies. You want to hear about his buddies. Philip Ted. That's just what he did. So about 6:15, I think he goes to the door. I think he calls or texts his mom, the defendant, says, needs a card. She comes out, gives him the card, he goes to the ATM real quickly, right down the road, gets some money, comes back to go play golf. He's playing golf with his friends. Chris and family, they go to the Peach Tree road race. Chris and Aston, they then go to the Cracker Barrel, I believe, that morning. Scott goes to the lake on a pool party. He's there in the afternoon and evening. The defendant actually leaves from Lake Lanier to go be with Amanda, Chad Bruce. You're going to see some things here. You're going to see it's kind of this way. And Chad Bruce was the fiance, now husband to Amanda Bruce, was Amanda Farris. And they go there and hang out, and you're going to hear about that. And at some point, they come back from the lake. Chris drops Aston off at the house on Wednesday night because they want to see and hang out. Now, these times, they change, and they get them wrong, but you're going to hear the times as we go through. Wednesday night, July 4th, kids around 11 or 12. They come in, they live out of state, they come in, they want to see everybody, they want to see Big Daddy, they want to ride some of the stuff on the property, they want to do things. It's 4th of July, and the defendant wants the kids to go to bed early. July 4th, 3rd, Tuesday, 4th, Wednesday, 5th, Thursday. The defendant goes to Walmart, checks out around 9:30. Scott spoke with the defendant and Amanda about 11 o'clock that morning. Now she goes and gets some supplies and some things at Walmart. So here's 5th is where it breaks open. Scott has got a connection or connect for some golf clubs. He's going to go to the PGA and get some golf clubs. He sees Amanda up at the house, so he's driving down his driveway from the barn to leave. He sees Amanda, so he goes up and starts talking to him. And the defendant is asking, have you seen your dad? And it's got to be sarcastic. And he can be hard on his mom. He talks to her. They kind of go back, he says some things, kind of sarcastically. We talk about where's dad, things like that. And they start looking for him. Now, the defendant starts asking people, are you on the bank accounts or something like that? As in, maybe he's using the funds or the accounts to try to find where he's at. But his Mercedes is at the house. And been moved. Now, they would say Gary would kind of go away sometimes and just kind of disappear. Now, he was last seen on Tuesday night by someone other than the defendant. So Wednesday, Thursday. Now they're just starting asking, where's he at? They go around the property. At some point, the defendant's behind the burn pile, and she points out to Scott, gets his attention, brings him up there. Something about ghosts. Did you burn ghosts? Scott gets to that burn pile. He was in the military. He's proud he was in the military. He tries to take a leadership role when things break bad, and he finds his own father's remains. He calls 911. You're going to hear it. During this time that's going on, a couple of weeks before this, while the cable guy or something was over at the house, Scott saw a .38 pistol. It was in a leather holster of some sort. And he thinks something's afoot. Foul play. Something's not right. He's suspicious of his mom. You're going to hear how he is. And he starts talking about this missing gun. And people are like, what gun? What are you talking about? He starts talking about this missing gun that was downstairs in the basement. 38. Nobody knows anything about 38 or anything like that. Scott has a suspicion that something's up. He actually says a statement to the effect, did my mom finally do something? We talked to her. Now, the defense is going to point at Scott or other people. But the evidence is going to show it's Melody. No one else. It's her. And what you have to do is follow the evidence. And what does the evidence say? What does it speak? What is the truth? It's not Scott. Law enforcement gets there, they start talking to people, and when they get there, what you're going to see is they get a call to someone in need, emergency services. So they bring the big long back thing you carry people on like a stretcher. They bring all this defibrillator, things like that. They get there. They don't know. They think they're going to find a person back there had a heart attack or stroke or heat exhaustion or something, pass out. And they get back there and they find nothing but remains. Law enforcement still doesn't really know what's going on in the beginning. They think it was just an emergency. They don't think anything about crime. They start talking to people, and then they realize the conditions of the remains had to burn for a long time. The CSI people at the sheriff's office, they're like, all right, we have to call in an expert, forensic anthropologist, Dr. Gooden, comes in, and you're going to see what she does. They interview the defendant, they interview Scott, they ask him what's going on. And in the beginning, the defendant, she starts right off the bat talking about, well, Gary had these medical conditions. And then she says his family's got some mental issues. He was suicidal. And she starts laying that foundation of these other things. Any enemies? No. Would kids do this? No. Anything else? No. Anything missing? No. She's laying the foundation. These are the pictures when law enforcement gets there. Dr. Gooding gets involved. They start marking it. And then things change. When they get the remains of Gary, and we're stipulated these remains of Gary. He's actually identified dental records. He's burned up so bad. When they get there, they find in his rib a 38. They think it's a 38 in the beginning, but it's a 38 special bullet.
Happy, actually, it's I'm the 13th juror, the juror you don't want.
Projectile. It's in his ribs. It's front to back, interior to posterior. It's in his ribs. So now they think he's medical condition, but he's burned up too bad. Then when they're doing it, that's a bullet. Changes everything. There's no gun. We do not know where the gun is. We look for the gun. The missing gun is evidence of consciousness of guilt. Because if it was a suicide, the gun would be right there. If it's murder, you can't get rid of the evidence. Burn the body, get rid of the gun. Things change now. It's a homicide investigation. Now, this family had problems. And they had disagreements. You're going to hear about dishes being broken. There's several instances of dishes being broken. One time, when she's talking about dishes, you're going to hear the defendant talking about, I had some dishes on top of the car and they fell off onto the ground and broke. Right. Scott's going to talk about an incident where his mom said some very terrible things about his dad, wishing terrible things upon him when she broke some dishes because she was mad when she went down to the basement where he lived and got the dishes. He spilled Mountain Dew or something like that. The man loved his Mountain Dew. Loved it. Cigarettes and Mountain Dew. She got so mad that she broke the dishes. Slammed them. found in this trash can. A set of dishes. When she's talking, the defendant is kind of all things to all people. That's what the evidence is going to show you. It's going to pivot. It's going to pivot. You're going to hear about two people in this case that pivot. She pivots. She's talking, she's smart, she knows what's going on, they're asking questions. She says, at one point, their marriage is not good. They live in the same household, but they're not living really as husband and wife. There are some good times, they try to do some stuff. They're living in separate rooms, separate floors. But at one point, she comes across and they ask, you've been married to him for 38 years. And, if it's that bad, you'll hear about how she describes the marriage and things. Why did you stay with him? I took a vow again. I took a vow. The evidence is going to show in this case that the defendant is loyal to two people. Very loyal. She's loyal to a man. There's something called prior difficulties. About 10 years before the murder, the defendant had an affair. We believe a guy named Ted Wiley. Ted was in a relationship with Gary's sister. They met, they hung out, and they started doing stuff, and the family knew what was going on. They separated, we believe because of this. Gary considered divorce. Didn't do it. They reconciled, but they lost trust. And this is where things change. The whole relationship changed because of this. Now, Gary worked with a lady, probably had a fling or something with her, not to the same degree, years ago. So they both had their issues. But the degree and the extent and the blatantness of this changed everything. And Gary started controlling finances. Her mindset was, to law enforcement, I took a vow to him. But you're going to hear evidence in a text message between her and another guy that would shrink the world and rule out. A guy that's a neighbor that met her when she would walk, because she would walk all the time. She's tough. In a text message, when she was upset with Gary, we believe, she said, my response to his fit he threw was, I hope you die alone in a gruesome death.
He sure did.
She's asked by law enforcement, she didn't say anything about hoping he died or anything like that. Terry responds and says, there you go. He's going to push you over the edge. I know, and that scares me. Told him finally to go where could not even see or hear him. It would be in his best interest. You're going to see some text messages, things in this. She portrays this, pivots. But in their marriage, an ever constant tension is money. She did not like that Gary used his money the way he did. It's referred to sometimes by people as a Ferris wheel because there was drama. There was definitely drama. Chris had his issues. Melody didn't really like Chris. Chris would use checking account numbers and credit card numbers and things like that. And he had paid for, coming up to this point, he had paid for a beach vacation. I think we're in a condo or something like that. And Melody was furious. She did not like that Gary was just going to go with him. And Gary basically he'd say stuff, but he'd write the check or he'd say, okay. He wouldn't really do anything. It's his kid.
I know we're going to have to stop a few times because there's going to be people with questions. His money. Yes, his money. He made all the money. Melody made no money. Melody took quite a bit of money and gave it to a boyfriend. So Gary still had money. He basically put her on an allowance, but he took away the credit cards, the debit cards, all of that, took her name off a lot of the stuff to protect the money because he would have ended up in the poorhouse. So that's why they say his money, because it was his money. Susie says, Armand, that sounds like Black Swan case with Ashley Benefield all over again. When's it due up? 2 says she's got some Greek in her, smashing plates and all. Wonder if she went oompa every time. I couldn't understand what he just said. Chris was going to write a check or a con. Okay, so Chris would write checks from his dad's account, use credit card numbers from his dad's account. The condo was money that was Gary signed as what's the word? He co-signed on the condo for Emily, and she did not like that. So she had to have her name on the condo too. She was not happy about it at all. As his wife and raised his children, it's half hers. Yep. And it was before she did all that, I believe it was like $50,000 that she took out of the account for a boyfriend. Susie, she was arraigned 3 days ago. Ooh. Nan's life. How far was his body destroyed in an open fire? He was a 300-pound man, burnt down to 33 pounds. 33 pounds of him was left. Bore his kids, married 35 years, etc. And his money. Oh, hell no. I know it sounds bad because I know right now it sounds bad, but I almost bet in this trial you're going to be like, oh, hell yes. Susie says, thanks, and Armand. We'll put it on my calendar to keep an eye out for. Yeah, that's going to be a good case. I can't wait for the sheriff case, though. Oh, I can't wait for that one.
Yes, his sons. He go forward. She say things like, this is the last straw. I've had it. I'm taking measures. It shows that her mindset is this money, this money, this money. And that leads to this. Bullet in his ribs. They go in the house. They look at the house. These are steps going down to the basement. There's blood. There's going to be evidence of blood and cleanup in the kitchen. Her domain. Down the steps. When you get off those steps, if you take off those steps, you can see it. Scott saw some blood on the floor down there. Law enforcement saw it. They go back and spray Blue Star. This chemical stuff that lights up, and you'll see it. You see those 4321 placards there? It's a trail of blood. I've circled this so you can see. Down there is a sofa. There's an ottoman, I believe is the term. And as you get closer, law enforcement found another bullet. We do not know how many times Gary was shot. We know he's shot and killed. We know there are at least 2. The blood trail from the kitchen up there, I believe the evidence is they had an argument. She shot him. He goes downstairs, trying to get away. She shoots him again.
So Nan says, how does a body get destroyed in that level in an open fire? The fire would have to be very hot to do that. Was she unaccountable for the hours? So, okay, so I believe it was something like to disintegrate a body that much, it had to be something like, it was 17 to 1800 degrees. And the fire was piping hot. She kept loading it very, very hot. And so this was the July 4th weekend. And everybody was doing something. Everybody was gone. Even Melody left for a bit and came back. So, and if you've seen the pictures of the house, it was out of the way.
He was able on his own to get out those doors, or she got him out herself. Top to bottom. No home invasion, no robbery, nothing.
Exactly, Armand.
And that brings us to what we call means, motive, and opportunity. How do you get away with a murder if there's no confession? How do you get away with a murder if there's no video of it? How do you get away with a murder if you try to burn and destroy all the evidence? You don't. When you use your common sense and all the evidence to put it together to shrink the world, and the only reasonable answer is she did it. Now, if they say Scott did it, Scott's not going to shoot us dead when he's paying all the bills. It's a great train. That's just not going to happen. Let's first talk about opportunity. The reason why you shrank the world down, and you will see at the times in this case, when he was killed and when his body was moved, when things are going on, the only person that's going to be at that house.
Claudia says, I'll get off this. I'm too mad at this poop off attorney right now. You're mad at the attorney right now? Are you mad because he said his money? Is that why you're mad, Claudia?
House. The only person is her. No one else. Just her. Sure, people were coming and going, and not knowing things were going on. The other thing you consider is sometimes when you
Don't be mad at him, Claudia. Honestly, you will see. You will see. And I was the same way in the beginning. Like, I did not going to lie to you guys. I was Scott's guilty. Scott and Melody are guilty. Melody and Rusty are guilty. And then I came to like, okay, this is Melody. I was every angle of it. I was there, so I get it. This prosecutor, wait till you meet John Luke. Yeah. If you don't like this prosecutor, Claudia, you're not going to like John Luke. Did she drag him up those steps to take him outside, or is there an outdoor exit from the basement? Outdoor exit from the basement. Yep, straight out the door to the yard. And then you go out the door to the yard, and then there's a slope that takes you down by the pond to where the burn pit was. So a lot of people think she could have actually dragged him because of the slope would have helped. I still believe the tractor was used to take him to the burn pit, but I still believe he was not dead when he went on that burn pit. We think he ran down the stairs, then just out the doors in the basement, downhill to the burn pit about 70 feet away. And I thought that too, Latu, but the problem is, why is the bullet in the basement? That's the only reason I think that she injured him, but I think he was drugged too, or poisoned when all this was going on. I'm thinking the wheelbarrow idea is possible. And they never said anything. You really think the wheelbarrow? See, if he was dead in the house when she took him, then I think the tractor. But my one thing that I think about all the time is that she injured him in the house, and he ended up at the burn pit and he was still alive. That's what I think. That's just my opinion.
Case was strong evidence of deception, mendacity. When you see that, she's cloaked in lies. You'll see it through the trial.
Yes, you're right.
The evidence will show that. Here's the thing she says about fires. The context, the common sense, the circumstantial evidence. Gary liked to set things on fire. He liked to burn stuff. Think about 2008. They had another house, Alpharetta, that they moved from to the farm. He said, I think the backwoods on fire or something like. Farm on fire. She hated that with understandable concern. That's dangerous. People are scared of fires. I get it. She's concerned about that. And then in the same house before this murder in 2016, I believe, he set the house on fire from the basement up, smoking cigarettes in the trash can left in there, and they caught the house on fire. She went after him. She is strong-willed. She has a backbone. She's tough-minded. And she would tell him how she felt. She told investigators things like this. I try to put together some of the things you'll hear. Oh. She had gotten so scared of fire after that.
Sorry for the ones that haven't watched this, because the ones that have, is it possible that he was at the burn pit when he was shot and she manipulated the body? The body and bullet were left when she got back home. The weapon was never found too. So if you go with that theory, Armand, then that would mean, I would say, from the beginning she was framing Scott. From minute one. So if, say, he was at the burn pit, throwing the wood in, all this, and she's went up behind him and shot him, and he fell in, because I don't think she'd shoot him from the front. She'd be a coward and shoot him from the back. So he would fall in face first. And then she found a bullet. But how would the drops of blood? I always said that. The drops of blood were weird to me. Which is consistent with her statement. Yes, it is. Farms have wheelbarrows, easy to transport heavy loads. I'm a country girl, and two-wheeled wheelbarrows can move lots. I just don't think they ever brought up a wheelbarrow. It was always the tractor, which is consistent with her statement. Yes, it is. But she would have had to find a bullet that had his blood and DNA on it and just place it. But the droplets of blood that they found, that's the only thing that I would wonder about that. But yeah, I just don't believe he was dead when he got put on the burn pile.
She had been just scared of the fire. She was scared to death. She figured Gary would burn her house down. They just didn't leave him here much alone because he would, I think she said, break a steel trap or something like that. She told Gary, don't leave the fire. She told Gary, please don't leave.
Hello, Leslie. Welcome. Didn't she shoot him in the house first? That's what we're saying. That's what they said. But now that we've heard her statement, some things might look a little different. But from what they said and what she got convicted of is that he was shot in the house first. But we're just, because I believe myself that he was alive when he went on that burn pile.
Leave the fire. She told Gary, we discussed with dinner, that you cannot go off and leave that fire. She told Gary, you got to watch the fire. She said there's no reason with him. He's a lawyer. He was going to burn it or die trying. Slip of tongue, but that's what she said. That was the opportunity. It's going to be her. Means. Means is how could you have done it? Because the question you're going to have in your mind that's going to boil down to this case is how did that little lady get that big man on the burn pile?
Yep.
She's a cowgirl, farm girl. Her daddy owned a hardware store growing up. She's been around it. She had ropes, leads, straps, tow lines. Did I mention they had a tractor? Means. Necessity is the mother of all inventions. You just committed murder, you'll be motivated. If you have
Is it too fast? I was running it at 1.25. Do you want me to slow it down? Because I'll slow it down for you guys. I'm packing a few, husband. All right.
means. Did I also say they had tell you they had an RTV? She knew I was driving by. Wednesday morning, Scott leaves to go play golf about 7 o'clock that morning. She doesn't leave, goes to the lake till around 1.
Hold on. So Leah is saying, please, it's too fast, okay? Shraz says, I'll get used to it. No, you don't have to get used to it. It's too fast. It's too fast. You guys speak. I listen. There we go.
No one's in the house. She comes back that night and tells the kids they go to bed early.
You guys are the boss.
Motive. In my business, there's nothing new under the sun. You don't have to be smart to be an attorney. You have to have common sense. And when it comes to motive, the question you're going to have is, one is, how does she get him out there? That's the answer. Everyone's going to answer that. Why did she do this? Why would a wife, even for a husband that she doesn't like, who has money? Well, she didn't inherit intestate succession. She gets stuff under Georgia law. Even if he died of an accident, she'd probably get more money. Motive. Let me introduce you to a person called Rusty. Law enforcement trying to figure out what's going on. They're at the house, they get consent and things like that. They search her purse and they find, the things you think you find in a purse, but they find this bank card, credit card, debit card, whatever it is, this financial card. And they find the name Roy Barton on it. And so they're asking, hey, who's Roy Barton? Well, she says, my cousin, Martha Jane, was married to Roy Barton years ago. In fact, in 2014, that's when this kind of starts off. But she doesn't mention Rusty. She's playing it off as Roy Barton Sr. And he's died. And I just had that, forgot it was there, something along those lines. The Rusty Barton, though, the Rusty Barton, is not senior, it's junior. And he's a character. He's reluctant. He's talking about the evidence going to show he's going to change. You're going to be introduced to Rusty Barton, who's from Tennessee, and we're bringing him in. I do not know what he will say on that stand. I know what he said in the past. He's flip-flop. That's what the evidence is going to show. But you're going to be able to use the law, which is called prior inconsistent statements. You're going to be able to judge when he said this, and when he says this, and when he says this, what do you believe? A little background on Rusty. He knew them since, I think he knew her when she was 15. Martha Jane.
Guys, I'm just going to put this out here. Carl's on. Do you want me to break this up and stream Carl, and then we'll come back to this? Anybody? Hello? Anybody? It's 6 minutes in. Yeah, I just put it on my big TV. Does anybody want me to do that? No? Okay. Yes, okay. Sounds good to me. Hold on. I will switch it over. We can always go back to this trial. There is nothing new in the Adelson case. No, but either is okay. You're so kind and accommodating. I prefer to rewatch this case. Okay. All right. Nobody wants to watch Carl except for Leah. All right, we'll keep going. We can always watch Carl on rewatch, I guess. I prefer to rewatch this case. All right.
Which is her second
Here we
cousin,
are.
more like a mother figure. She loves Martha Jane. Martha Jane's a good woman, a godly woman. Martha Jane loves the defendant. They were married to Rusty's father. So Martha Jane, Roy Sr. were married. Rusty and the defendant became romantic in about 2014. She was up there helping her, Martha Jane. I think she had open heart surgery.
Not understanding.
In fact, Rusty actually took Martha Jane to Emily's wedding. Up close and personal. The affair was going on for about 4 years, 2014, 2018. Inactive. Gary knew about it. There's an email he received that put him on notice about from Rusty's girlfriend. You're going to hear him ask questions about Rusty talking to her, telling her, don't do that. Rusty did internet searches about the wedding rings when law enforcement was talking to him. They would rendezvous in Dalton, which is about halfway for Tullahoma, Tennessee, and Alpharetta. Almost halfway exactly. Exit 333. They meet up there. In the beginning it was monthly, several weeks ago, and then it became weekly. She would just disappear. Family knew what was going on. They had suspicions, but they didn't realize who Rusty was until this broke. They kind of have a 6-month plan. Rusty believed, based on what the defendant was telling him, according to Rusty, that Gary had some esophagus cancer or something, bleeding, something going on, so he was sick and he was going to die. And they kind of had this plan after Gary passed away. Naturally, they would, for 6 months, lay low, and then they would come back and get together. They were in love. They talk like junior high kids in love for the first time, all the time. They had a regular pattern. Law enforcement interviewed Rusty on certain occasions. there's these dates where Rusty was interviewed, and it basically goes from I don't know anything, and then they press it. We told you in a trial like this, it can be a contact sport. The attorneys can get after it. We can get after it. I can get after it. And they get after it with Rusty. I'll be professional. But they did the good cop, bad cop with Rusty because he didn't want to give up on Melody. And you're going to hear how they talk to him about this is a death penalty case. You can be arrested for this. You can be what side you want to be on in the courtroom. All techniques law enforcement use to have someone talk. He talks to them. And they use him in the sense of they would get information from him, and then he was willing to cooperate and record some calls and some things like that. But look at this pattern here. He talked for some time, and in June of 2019, he recants something he told law enforcement in July of 2018. Y'all familiar with the first 48 hours? In law enforcement, in this business, you get to someone as quickly as they can because if there's time, they will change. Feelings change. In the beginning, he says one thing, and then he gives up more and more. It's like pulling teeth. You finally get it out. But he recants. And this is what he recants. The evidence in the case is going to show that when you shrink the world to the only person that had the motive was her, the only person that was home when this could have occurred, Tuesday evening, going in from Tuesday the 3rd to Wednesday the 4th, about 2 o'clock in the morning, law enforcement talks to Rusty and says, all right, what did she say? And he describes it as the last minute, last conversation. This is what he tells law enforcement. She said, Gary's in the burn pile. No. She said, he is in the burn pile. And I said, what? And she said, he is in the burn pile. I said, do not say another word and do not tell me anything. I do not need to know that. This is what, before the murder's known, anything like that, he on the phone. The record's going to show that he had 3 or 4 main phone calls during this time. It's going to show that his pattern when he would talk to her was abnormal for this time. There's a phone call, and he says, I talked to her. And this is what she said. He's in the burn pile. This would have been July 4th. Now he comes back a year later and recants. Well, his presence and companionship is with the defendant. Law enforcement goes, gets arrest warrants, goes up to Tullahoma, Tennessee to arrest her, and guess who she's with? Rusty. After she's arrested, she's in jail before she bonds out. There's actually jail calls. And you're going to hear some of those. And we told you there's going to be calls and things like that. And you're going to have to be patient with us. It's going to be a lot of information. It's just a piece of this puzzle. But at the end of the day, it's going to show the defendant. So it's past being arrested. He recants to law enforcement. Oh, I didn't say, she didn't say that. I was pressured. I was under duress. I was taking sleeping pills. I was under alcohol. And then she's talking to him on a phone call. And this is just a part. Now, you're going to hear the whole thing later on. But this is what we call consciousness of guilt. The evidence is going to show that she says this, and this is not what an innocent person would say to her lover.
Sure.
No. Well, like a long time ago, I just stopped talking.
Right.
I haven't done anything.
I know that, Norman.
It's because what you keep talking about, you're going to single-handedly hang me.
Speak the truth. This is what charges. Malice murder, felony murder, aggravated assault, assuming death, and other, making false statements. We are here because Gary cannot be here. And the only reason we're here is by her hand. Malice murder is the unlawful killing of somebody with malice aforethought. It doesn't mean someone's wicked in that sense or malice in the sense that is hatred or things like that. It is the unlawful intent to kill. And the judge is going to charge on that. One shot could be felony murder if they're fighting and she just reacts. 2 shots and burning. It's depraved. Felony murder, the evidence is going to show that even if she didn't intend to, with malice, to kill him, that intent to kill, that she had that gun in it, just went off. Not the case because she shot him twice. That's still felony murder. It's not the intent to kill. It's the intent to do the underlying felony, which is aggravated assault. Pointing the gun at someone or shooting them, and they die. Even if you didn't mean for them to die, it's still felony murder. There's no malice involved. There's no intent to kill. Ag assault is just the shooting. Concealing death of another. The law is designed to prevent certain conduct, and the case that you have before you shows what it's designed to prevent. Not only was Gary Farris murdered, and he has friends and family that watch this, that are here, but they were deprived of him. Because she burned him up. False statements because she lied to law enforcement about Russell. Y'all forget about all this out here. My job, representing the district attorney, is to present this case to you without fear, favor, or affection. Your job, under your oath, is to speak the truth. I talked to you about veritas. You see the word verdict. It's truth, speak. It's the word veritas with dit in Latin, to speak. When you're done with this case, take all the time you need. Forgive me when I bumble through things, when I get sideways, when I'm doing my job. But remember, I am representing a voice that has been snuffed out and taken away. And Megan Frankis and I are going to present you with the evidence. And there's 2 sides to the truth. That is, where you see the deceit and the lies in this case, that points to who did it. When you see the opportunity, the means, and the motive, money, sex, new life, the truth, as sad as it is, as hard as it is that the defendant murdered and desecrated her own husband.
That's right.
Would this be a good time for a break, or?
I'm gonna let y'all go and then we'll break after that. Reset. Anybody need a break? All right. I got one taker. All right. We'll go ahead and take a break. It'll be, if one of you are going to, then all the dominoes will fall. So it'll be 10 minutes. So we'll go ahead and take a break. That's fine. All right. They started it.
Leslie, you're right. It was a good opening. Okay, we're gonna get past the break.
Or she go take a break. So.
Oh.
All right, you ready to get started?
Did you see? Okay, I got to show you this. This is what I've been talking about. There's no way you can't tell me Melody Farris and Judge Cannon weren't flirting through this case. I swear they were flirting back and forth in this case. So I'm going to leave it here so you can see it. I was disgusted by it. I want to get it right to the point. I don't want you to miss it. But this was the first example I seen of it.
Shane's coffee that he made in my French press. And I'm going to be flying for the rest of the afternoon. All right, you ready to get started? Or continue?
Ready.
You ready? All right, go ahead and bring them in.
Did anybody else see that, or am I just seeing things? Susie says, I saw it right off. Let's count them. Yep. That's the first. Right. I was like, wait, he's talking to somebody else, but he's side eyeing, like from the corner of his eye, Melody. And then the camera goes to her because the cameraman must have caught it. And she's all smiles. She's all grinny. Yep. Oh, she was flirting with him. Go back, catch that. Oh, look at the schoolgirl grin.
Flying for the rest of the afternoon. All right, you ready to get started?
Aw.
Or continue?
Hi, Kathleen.
Ready? All right, go ahead and bring them in. I went ahead and sent
Welcome.
them down to get coffee and told our smoker she'd go take a break. So.
Yep, I agree. Yeah, her closing was great. And they're still waiting for the smoker. There we go.
All right, Mr. Ray, you ready to proceed?
Ready.
All right, go ahead.
Mr. Weaver, as y'all recall, he did more diary, so I didn't get to talk to you too much. We kind of broke it up. He got stuck with that task in lieu of me doing opening statements. So my name is Michael Ray. Along with John Luke Weaver, we're representing Mr. Farris. Thank y'all for your service. I know that a 3 or 4, excuse me, a 3 or 4 week long trial is not how you anticipated spending your beginning of fall. So we do appreciate that. And we have worked quite diligently. You know, I've had this case for, 6 years now.
For
Trying
sure.
to whittle it down to what is the most important pieces of evidence to show to you and to present to you so that you can make a decision in this case. So I don't think we're going to go beyond 4 weeks. It could get done as early as 3, but it might go into 4. But we're definitely going to try to get it moving as quickly as possible. For your jury service, Abraham Lincoln said that one of the greatest services of a citizenship is jury duty. And I think that's very true. It's the equivalent, in my opinion, of voting, because without you, 16 people we have, or if it was in state court, the 6 people we would have, without you, we couldn't do this. We couldn't do our job. Justice couldn't be done. Justice couldn't be done for Melody without you. So thank you for serving. When you act as a juror, or when you're sitting as a juror, in this particular case, and in all cases, you are essentially the conscience of the community, because you're going to hear this evidence, then you're going to apply it to the law that the judge is going to give you, and you're going to render a decision. Because if you recall, when Judge Cannon was going over the oath with you that he read to you last thing, I know you've taken a lot of it. You took one downstairs when there was 120 of you, and then you took another one when you came in your jury bill, and then you came in with the 16 of you and you took another. But in that oath that you took an oath to give a truth verdict according to the evidence. And that's what we're asking you to do. And you heard the judge say that it's your duty to render a truth verdict based on the evidence. And that's exactly what we'll be asking you to do. Now, Mr. Fogus, he did a good job in his opening statement. So some of the things are duplicated because Obviously, when he came in, he didn't know what I was going to say. And when I came in, I didn't know what he was going to say. But I don't want to sit there and regurgitate the same things. But we got to talk about a few things. That one being the indictment. Mr. Ruggett did a great job going through explaining it. So just kind of to recap what Ms. Farris is charged with. 1, malice murder. That is essentially, to keep it simple, and we'll go over it much deeper at the end when the judge actually gives you the charge, and then we get to argue. What malice murder is: somebody is alive, I don't want them alive, and they're dead. That's malice murder. Felony murder: I commit a felony
no,
act,
Shrez.
and it causes that person's death. Like trying to rob somebody, accidentally shoot them, felony murder. That's what it is. In this case, the felony is the aggravated assault. The state alleges that Ms. Farris shot her husband, Gary Farris, and that was an aggravated assault. And as a result of that assault, he died. So that's felony, murder, and aggravated assault are linked together. Concealing the death of another, it's pretty obvious. There's a little more depth to it when you actually look at the actual elements of the offense, but you can imagine what that is. Somebody has passed away and you have concealed it. Making false statements, that's lying to the police. We always say defense attorneys can lie to you, but you cannot lie to the police. It's actually a crime. So, this case, and you've heard a little bit of it from Mr. Fogus, but you've probably seen on your crime show, because I know from Bordeaux, a lot of you watch the podcast, the crime shows, the true crime and all that. And you always see defense attorneys talking a lot of time about there's been a rush to judgment in this case. You know, rush to prosecute the first person that you can get your hands on. But that wasn't this case. Melody was under investigation in this case for over almost a year, between the 911 call that you're going to hear shortly and her arrest on June 18th of 2019. So there wasn't a rush to judgment, but what we had in this case was different. It was called confirmation bias. And we'll talk more about this in close, but what a confirmation bias is you got a belief and you've got facts. And that belief and those facts merge together. And that's what you believe. Even though you have all of these other facts over here, you just ignore those facts because that's not in your belief. And that's not in the facts that you want to look at. And that is a confirmation bias. You're going to see from the evidence in this case, from day one, the investigation by Detective Hayes and all the other officers in Cherokee County Sheriff's Office, even the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation, the GBI, everything that was done in this case was tailored specifically to attempt to convict Melody of the death of Gary Farris. One big thing you're going to hear, and you're going to hear it a lot, is Scott Farris. You are going to hear the 911 call here shortly. That's the first thing we're going to do. I'm going to play you the 911 call. 13 minutes after law enforcement arrives, Scott Farris is already blaming his mother. He knows nothing. They're not even sure if there is a body on the burn pile. They're not even sure it's Gary. He's already planting the seeds of blaming his mother. 13 minutes. And law enforcement took that into their beliefs. And then they focused their evidence on that. And that is confirmation bias. Now, you heard Mr. Fogus talk about the Ferris wheel, and I talk about it too. That this was a turbulent family. The best is, and we'll go through, I have a family tree to go over with you that kind of lays everybody out. But one of them, his name's Chad Bruce. He is now married to Amanda. And Chad Bruce, when he was interviewed, he said, I always called it the Ferris wheel. It's like a soap opera. Something is always going on with Chris, Scott, and Emily. And it's true. All the time. All the time. And I'll talk a little bit more about it. But you're going to see text messages. Gary mad that they're blowing money. Chris can't survive on his own, always needing money. Scott, a grown man, can't survive on his own, always needing money. Coming to get mama's credit card so he can go get some money out. Emily with her turmoil with her new husband and all that. In fact, you're also going to hear that Gary and Melody had to buy Emily and her husband the house up in Tennessee where they live. There was a lot of turmoil in this family. But jumping on the Ferris wheel, first off, who is Melody? Melody was born in 1960, and she was born in Smyrna, Tennessee. And she had a somewhat unusual upbringing, especially for that point in time. Melody was very little, and they moved from Smyrna and moved to Tullahoma. You already heard a little bit about Tullahoma. It's actually where Melody was arrested. That's where Martha Jane lives. That's where Rusty lives. And I'll talk a little bit more about all those people. They moved to Tullahoma, and Melody and her mother, Kay, lived with Melody's grandparents. And that went on for a few years, and eventually Kay Walker met a man named Carl Walker, and they got married. And then they continued, once they were married, they bounced around a little bit. They went from Tullahoma to Nashville, Nashville to Florence, Florence back to Nashville, just kind of bouncing around this North Alabama, Central Tennessee and back down area, just moving around. Then when Melody was a teenager, they finally settled in Florence, Alabama. It's in the north. You've probably heard of Muscle Shoals. It's right there. And that's where eventually Melody started going to high school, was in that area. And so now you're like in the mid-70s, and that's actually when Melody meets Gary Farris. And met when they were 16 years old. They didn't go to the same high school. They actually met through mutual friends at the same church, and they began dating. And they dated through high school. And then in 1970, they got married. So at 1960, I think it was 79, they got married because Melody was 19 years old. Now, they get married, right out of high school, and they both go to the University of North Alabama. Melody's there for about a year, and then she drops out. Gary stays on. So Melody leaves. They're still together. They're still married. And she's working at General Electric Credit and Ace Hardware. Her Kay Walker, her mother, Carl Walker, opened up a Ace Hardware in Florence, Alabama. And that's where Melody worked. And you'll hear a lot about Ace Hardware. She worked there for many, many, many years, helping them out with their business. So in 1980, while Gary's still in school, Chris Farris is born. Now Melody is working full-time at this point at the hardware store. Gary's full-time college student. 1983 rolls around, Scott Farris is born. Melody's still working at the hardware store. Gary's still going to school. Now you fast forward a little bit, Gary's graduated, and in 1988, they have Emily. And at this point, they've moved to Tuscaloosa to the University of Alabama, and that's where Gary goes to law school. So they're living there with the three kids while Gary's in law school. And then in 1989, Amanda Farris, who's now Amanda Bruce, she's born. Excuse me. In 1989, the following year, Gary graduates law school, and the family moves to Birmingham, where he works for Burr & Horman, the same firm that he was at when he passed away. Now, in 1995, the law firm sent Gary to Atlanta. They were trying to expand, have a different office in Atlanta, and Gary was going to be a major part of that. And I think when he actually first got there in 95, there was there's only him and another person there. It wasn't, this huge law firm, at least here in Atlanta at that point in time. So 95, you got 4 kids, really ranging from kindergarten to Chris at that point in time being about 15 years old. Melody's a stay-at-home mom. She's going back and forth to Florence to help her parents with the hardware store and just living. And an interesting point then comes later in 1997 to Melody is Carl Walker, who she thought was her father, passed away. And while she was at the funeral, a relative came up to her and told her that, just so you know, Carl Walker's not your father. And so then that leads on to her trying to figure out who her actual father is. And she does. But Carl raised her. It's just an odd thing, to kind of come out of the blue in 1997 at his funeral. Now in 2013, it's kind of the next major event. That is when Gary and Melody buy the Purcell Lane house, where you saw the photos and Mr. Fogus's opening of the house. That's when that was purchased, 2013. They move in there, and when they get there, shortly thereafter, Scott moves in to the apartment that is above the barn. Now, all the kids, they also have kids and wives that are relevant to this case. And Scott was married to Jenna, and her name was Jenna Farris. Since Gary's death, my understanding is they have divorced. She has changed her name. I'm not going to try to pronounce it. I haven't talked to her to figure out how she pronounces it. But that is Jenna Farris was her name. Chris also has other children by another woman, and that is Ella Farris and Addison Farris. Ella, at the time in July, the 3rd, 4th, 5th of 2018, she was over at her friend Emma's house. And Addison was over at Melody and Gary's house on the 5th, on the 4th. She came over after the lake. And I'll go through the timeline. Emily, this is Chris Payne, with the prior difficulties of the family. Chris Payne was a little bit of that. And Amanda is married to Chad. Chad's the one I was telling you about. He's the one who talked about the Ferris wheel and about how there's always something going on. And basically this family is like a soap opera. That is Chad. And Chad also has a daughter by another woman, and her name is Cameron Bruce. Cameron is who was there with Addison on the 4th. Now, let's talk about the timeline. So you already heard a lot about the burn pile. So Gary did start the burn pile on July 3rd. Okay, we know that. That's a fact. Also, a couple of other interesting things happened. Addison and Cameron don't live in Georgia. All right? Those are Chris's children, or Ella and Addison do not live in Georgia. They live in Maine. On July 3rd, they flew in to Hartsville, Jackson. Chris went and picked them up, and they drove up. They came to Melody and Gary's house. Ella had already been dropped off at Emma's house, and Addison came with Chris to see Melody and Gary. And they see both Melody and Gary. Now it is, and I'll go into it more here in a moment, there is some contention about what Addison says, how the house was on the 4th, but we'll talk about that here in a minute. Now on the 4th, that is when Melody goes to Lake Lanier. You'll see, and the evidence will show that we've got a parking receipt. Actually got two things. We've got a parking receipt from Lake Lanier that shows the time that she went in. There's also a ATM slip that was in her card that we got photographs of, show that her withdrawing money, and that was on the 3rd. And we'll talk about those here more in a minute. July 4th, that is when Addison and Cameron spend the night at the house. Now, Cameron and Addison, they have two different versions of events about how it was. Addison's more, it was kind of weird. Melody didn't want us to go outside. She made us go to bed early. Cameron will testify that they did go outside. They went and saw the horses. Nothing was weird. We actually snuck out of the house at 10 o'clock, went to the hot tub, were in the hot tub for a while, came back in, went to bed. Nothing really out of the normal. The reason, and you'll also see that some evidence from Addison. There's a text message to Melody from Addison that says, hey, can we spend the night tonight on July the 3rd? And Melody responds, says, no, not tonight. And we'll have to uncover the reason for that, do the evidence. I don't want to speculate here as to what that was. But we do know that is true. She said, no, not tonight. And she spent the night the following night after they got back from Lake Lanier. On July 5th, that is where things with this case get interesting. The remains are found on the burn pile. Now, that day started, Melody grocery shopping, the kids are there. But to sum it up, what it's really going to show is the girls wanted to ride the RTV. Melody says, go downstairs and ask Grandpa. They called him Big Daddy. Go downstairs and ask him. He's not there. I don't know where he is. So they start looking for him. Eventually, Amanda comes over because what originally the plan was is Melody, Amanda, Addison, and Cameron, they were going to have a day together. They were probably going to go eat lunch. Had talked about potentially going to get their nails done, basically just having a girls' day together. Now, when Amanda got there, they all began looking around the house. Can't find it. Gary's nowhere to be found. His car's still there. But none of this is super out of normal. Gary was a workaholic. Sometimes he would take Uber so he didn't have to drive. He essentially would be gone, for days. He may come home, he may not. We'll get into their relationship here in a minute. So no alarms were really raised at this point. Now, Scott comes over, and that's where things do get interesting. When Scott gets there, he comes in the house and immediately goes downstairs. After proclaiming to the family something along the lines of, "Where's the gun?" And he goes downstairs in return and says, "The gun's gone." Now let's talk about this gun. I call it the magic gun because Scott Farris is the only person to ever see this gun. There's nobody else, only him. You'll hear evidence that he found it in the drawer while he was looking for a remote to help the DirecTV man. And then he found the gun. He gives a very detailed description of it. And that's it. Nothing else.
Right, Armand? If they know Gary was at the burn pile on the 3rd, then he could have been shot there. But how did that bullet and the droppings get in the basement there? That's always been my question. Scott Farris was not the only person to see the gun. That's right.
And this was a few months before July when he had the DirecTV. Actually, I think it was the beginning of June. So about a month before is when Scott sees this gun. And he claims he has no idea. He's never seen this gun before. It's very strange. This gun is here. And he didn't know anything about it. But he also didn't do anything about it. Now, 6 years later, this is where Jenna Farris kind of comes in and is interesting. 6 years later, she gives an interview to the district attorney's office claiming she also saw a gun in the basement that you saw in Mr. Focus's opening, where Gary was. However, this gun looked completely different than the one Scott described and is in a completely different location than where Scott said it was. So these are the only two people that have seen this gun, and the guns they described don't even match each other, and one of them talked about it 6 years later. Now, after Gary's remains were found, he was taken down to Georgia Bureau of Investigation Forensics Department to the crime lab. And that's where an autopsy was performed. But after July 5th, 2018, 348 days go by. Melody's not arrested at this point. She's interviewed several times. I believe the evidence will show that, or I believe that the state will be playing those interviews for you. So you'll actually see Melody testifying and answering law enforcement questions. But 348 days passed. And in that 348 days, they were doing audio testing. What that was is they put a ballistics dummy in the living room of the house, and they shot it with a revolver. And they had members of the Cherokee Marshal's office, as well as some sheriff's office, out there with decibel readers at different points. They were out at the barn, they were out by the road, and they were also in the house, measuring what the decibel was for firing this revolver into this ballistic dummy. And then they moved the dummy downstairs, and they shot it a bunch of times downstairs. And you're going to see all this. They're going to play all the videos of them doing the shooting and recording the sounds and all that. Diving in the lake, you're going to see they brought out the Cherokee Sheriff's Department to dive into the lake to see about where the gun was. Didn't find anything. Recording Melody's phone calls. And we'll talk more about this momentarily. Rusty, because you already heard about him, agreed with Detective Hayes that he would put some kind of app on his phone and record all their phone calls. And he did for months. You're going to hear a lot of those. Also, during that 348-day time, Scott and Chris are interviewed several times. Sometimes Scott and Chris are interviewed together, at least on one occasion, and several times Scott is interviewed alone. And then on June 12th, over 11 months later, the crime lab issues the autopsy report saying that Gary was the manner of death and the cause of death. Well, the cause of death was gunshot. The manner of death was homicide. And it took them 11 months to issue that report. You'll see, especially when forensic pathologist who did the autopsy, when he testifies, they weren't waiting on anything. They knew that it was Gary. The forensic, the dental forensics had already come back. It was already Gary. But for some reason, unknown, and you'll see this happens a lot in this case. There's a lot of unknown, and we'll talk about that. No idea why it took 11 months to issue the autopsy report. No idea. But 6 days later, Melody gets arrested. And Mr. Focus is right. She wasn't in Tullahoma, Tennessee. She was up there with Martha Jane. They called her and said, hey, we got an arrest warrant for you.
Leah, she was in her
And she came
50s
and turned
because it
herself in.
took 6 years to get to this.
Nothing to hide. Now, John Luke and I came up with this. Actually, well, we didn't come up with it. He had gone. We were been a long day already, so he was done for the day, so he left. And he went up to the drugstore, and there was a girl in there. And the drugstore, I don't know if your office is in downtown Jasper. There's a Jasper drugstore right on the corner on Main Street in Jasper. It's being sold, and they're doing renovations. And he went in there and asked them a question about something, and they didn't know. And they go, sometimes the greatest questions go unanswered. And he was like, perfect. Brought me out of my slump. Now I know what I'm dealing with. So that's kind of what we've been talking about the whole time with this case, because so many things you're going to be asking yourself so many times in this case. How did this happen? How did this happen? How did this happen? And nobody knows. You can guess. Nobody's going to know. So let's talk about some evidence and questions without answers. So evidence, Melody and Gary. It is no fact, I think also, Melody and Gary affairs. It is common knowledge that they had affairs. People knew. You can even, the grandkids, the evidence will show that even they had their suspicions and pretty well knew that, there was, affairs happening. Melody did. She was having an affair with Rusty. Gary did. He brought, when they moved.
Yeah. What does the word salad even mean, sir? So somebody in a drugstore said, greatest questions go unanswered. And a light bulb goes off. Oh my God. Susie says, how did she get him to the burn pile? How did stray bullet wind up on a basement floor? Whose blood drops are they on the stairs? Still my three main questions. I don't even think they were answered. It's just assuming that's what happened.
Moved here in 1995. Angela Phillips was his secretary. He brought her with him from Birmingham to Atlanta. And she was his secretary for 28 years. And she's a bit hesitant to talk about it, but I believe you'll be hearing from her about how they did have a relationship. Gary was also having a relationship, at least somewhat by text and email, with another woman who worked in his building named Joanne Ward or Joanne Hill. So, and you'll also hear Ted Wiley. Okay, they had affairs. They lived completely separate lives. In the house that Mr. Focus was showing you, in that house, Melody lived upstairs. You saw the house, and it may not be in evidence, but you saw it. That place looks like Southern Living magazine, decorated to the nines. Melody did all that. She lived upstairs. Gary lived downstairs. It was just how they'd done it. It had always been that way for years. ever since the 90s. They lived two separate lives. They would sometimes go days without even seeing each other, without speaking to each other. They didn't really talk, didn't really communicate. They did, they had kids. So they had to have some interaction together. They went and saw Emily and Chris's daughter. Her name's Olivia, when she was born. They still did Christmases together. So they did some of these family things together, but for the most part, they were just married people who did their own thing. And Melody did her thing, and Gary did his thing. And it was just what worked for them. Now, granted, with the affairs, it wasn't something that was flaunted in their faces. You try to keep some level of discretion, but it was known, and it was just how they lived. Now, Melody's interviews, I expect that you'll be seeing those interviews. And really, the only thing I want to point out with that is Melody is very blunt, very to the point. She's just who she is. She's a hard woman. And that's how she comes off, and that's how she is with law enforcement. She's very matter of fact. Here's what happened. Here's what I was doing. That's just how she is. But one of the most important things that she says in her interview is in the very last interview that she ever gave to law enforcement. Last thing she ever said to law enforcement was, "I just want my family back." Forensics. There's a good bit of forensics in this case. Some of
Yeah. Oh, that was hilarious. She can't remember if she had sex with somebody. It was that bad. She can't remember. Oh. It was defense lawyers are so good at muddling the waters, clouding the sunny skies, trying to distract the jury, and they're not even good at it. They sure did try. Irene, I hadn't considered antifreeze until Melody brought it up in her sentencing. Yep, antifreeze in his Mountain Dew. Yeah, at Susie, she was really pointing fingers and also kind of self-snitching. Yep.
It was pretty interesting. I want to talk to you. I didn't want to do any of the photographs, but those blood drops that were talked about by Mr. Vogus, you're going to see that there is blood. Well, let me back that up. You will see there is a substance leading down to the basement. You're going to hear from the GBI Lana Coffee. She sprays Blue Star, which is a substance that is supposed to reflect when it's blood. Now, that's a whole nother thing. You're not going to hear anything about that being tested, of whose blood it is, even if it is blood. And you go down the stairs, they did take a swab, but they find some little drops of blood. Some of them are about as small or even smaller than 1 centimeter on the floor. Take a swab of those, send it off. That was Gary's blood. Those blood trails never lead out of the house, upstairs or downstairs. You also, the bullet. We're going to be talking a lot about the bullet, how there's no textiles found, a bullet that is found in the basement. We also have our own forensic pathologist who will be testifying about what his opinion is regarding the manner and cause of death of Gary. And we may also end up calling an additional ballistics expert, depending on how things play out with the ballistics experts are going to testify for the GBI. But that is just a wait and see. Text messages, the text messages to Terry Braswell, Mr. Fogus said that in his opening, the hope you die a gruesome death. It is a text message. We expect Terry Braswell to come in here and testify. We'll be able to cross-examine him about that text message. However, we do know one fact, excuse me, is that
he did,
that
Susie.
text message was sent 2 years
Did
ago.
say it was Gary's blood.
So
But it never
something
went
that
out of the
was
house.
done in July of 2018 or even June of 2018, years before. Especially see text message between Gary and Scott about their tumultuous relationship, especially involving money. Gary sending Scott, I better have my debit card back.
One sec.
Also see,
I don't know how far back it was.
I want to point out that is Melody is very blunt, very to the point. She's just who she is. She's a hard woman. And that's how she comes off, and that's how she is with law enforcement. She's very matter of fact. Here's what happened, here's what I was doing. That's just how she is. But one of the most important things that she says in her interview is in the very last interview that she ever gave to law enforcement. Last thing she ever said to law enforcement was, I just want my family back. Forensics. There's a good bit of forensics in this case. Some is pretty interesting. I want to talk to you. I didn't want to do any of the photographs, but those blood drops that were talked about by Mr. Vogus, you're going to see that there is blood. Well, let me back that up. You will see there is a substance leading down to the basement. You're going to hear from the GBI Land Coffee. She sprays Blue Star, which is a substance that is supposed to reflect when it's blood. Now, that's a whole nother thing. You're not going to hear anything about that being tested, of whose blood it is, even if it is blood. And you go down the stairs, they did take a swab, but they find some little drops of blood. Some of them are about as small or even smaller than 1 centimeter on the floor. Take a swab of those, send it off. That was Gary's blood. Those blood trails never lead out of the house, upstairs or downstairs. You also, the bullet. We're going to be talking a lot about the bullet, how there's no textiles found on the bullet that is found in the basement. We also have our own forensic pathologist who will be testifying about what his opinion is regarding the manner and cause of death of Gary. And we may also end up calling an additional ballistics expert, depending on how things play out with the ballistics experts are going to testify for the GBI. But that is just the wait and see. Messages, the text messages to Terry Braswell, Mr. Fogus said that in his opening, the hope you die a gruesome death. It is a text message. We expect Terry Braswell to come in here and testify. We'll be able to cross-examine him about that text message. However, we do know one fact, is that text message was sent 2 years before. So it wasn't something that was done in July of 2018 or even June of 2018, years before. Especially see text message between Gary and Scott about their tumultuous relationship, especially involving money. Gary sending Scott, I better have my debit card back. Also see Melody and Scott, they used to text back and forth a lot. And recorded phone calls. Going to hear all those calls with Rusty. Now, also with finances. Now, while that house was very nice, and it was like $1 million house, and it's decorated to the nines. And yeah, we've actually got some of Gary's pay stubs, and after taxes, he was bringing home $20,000. Can't remember if it was every 2 weeks or every month. But that home, mortgage to the hill. Debt high, cash low. Gary stopped working, his family's over. And that's exactly what happened. Gary passes away, you're going to hear first thing that happens to the house, foreclosed. Didn't have enough money to pay for it. Cars gone, everything put in storage. So while they made a lot of money, they blew a lot of money. Now, Gary did have some good investments. He had a 401k with his law firm. 401k. profit sharing with the law firm, insurance, life insurance, things like that. But all those aren't accessible cash that you can use. So Gary had to keep working to fund this lifestyle. Now, questions without answers. Where was Gary shot?
And remember, guys, he was making hundreds of thousands of dollars. And literally was at a point where they could start losing everything. Not because his wife's hands were in the pocket, but all his kids' hands were in the pocket too. The man was working himself to death. And he probably would have, just so everybody could have the lifestyle they wanted.
When Dr. Gooding testifies, she's going to have a drawing of a skeleton. And it's going to show the ribs, and it's going to show he was shot somewhere here. Is it the front or in the back? Not going to be able to tell you that. Angles, don't know. No idea. Also, that's just where was he shot on the body. Where was he shot in the house? The evidence is going to show, while there may be some blood and that was not tested, so we'll call it maybe blood. Upstairs in Melody's portion of the house, we'll call it, and a trail leading downstairs to Gary's portion, we'll call it. You're also going to get evidence from, most likely from Amanda, how a few days before July the 3rd, 4th, 5th, that Gary, that Gary had been bitten by one of Melody's dogs on the ankle and was bleeding as he walked down the stairs down to his room so that he could stop the bleeding in his ankle. And that's where the blood came from.
Jamie.
But where was he shot? No idea. How was he put on the burn pile? You're not going to hear.
Leslie, I agree, and I believe he was one of those men. But I just believe his whole family, not just Melody, were very greedy people.
About that either. You're going to see photographs of tractors. You're going to see photographs of RTVs. Probably of horses too. But you're not going to hear anything about Gary being moved on one of those vehicles. You will hear, though, that there was one drop of blood that was Gary's on the step getting up into the tractor. There's nothing in like the bucket. One drop of blood on the tractor. Where is the gun? Don't know that either. Now, you're going to see photographs of guns. There were guns on the property. There was no .38 Fang on the property. I think there was an old .32 caliber that was found on the property.
Sorry, guys. Kathleen says he was shot next to the burn pile. I believe that too. I think he was. I don't think he was. He was wounded at the burn pile to where he ended up in the burn pile alive. I believe that. And yeah, I just, if she planted the bullet, what she could, how does she plant the blood drops? That's my question.
But we know that wasn't the gun in question. But what you will find is that Scott has quite a bit of .38 caliber ammunition in the barn. And in fact, he's got it in his bedside table. But yet he claims, and when he testifies, I assume he will be claiming the same thing, that he does not own a .38 caliber pistol. He will claim that he owned a .357 Magnum at one point, but that gun had been stolen years ago. and he didn't have anything that would shoot a 38. Yet he has.
I've thought of that too, Leslie, off of the tractor, but they were straight down. It's the way the blood droplets were, right? And they weren't, how did they say it? They weren't, it wasn't a splatter of like somebody running, so there's movement to the splatter. That's all I say. He was bitten by the dog, and a couple days before then went downstairs. I forgot about that. Yes, I did. Why would those brothers stop her abusing their dad, especially when they got older? How are they going to stop her from cheating and taking money? They were taking money, right? You're right. I forgot about the dog, Kathleen. Thank you so much. Good evening, Rochelle and everyone in the chat. Are you rewatching the Melody Train going off the rails trial? I already saw it, watching what she said in her sentencing statement. She did it. Yeah. Yeah, because there was people that have not even seen the trial yet. So I asked if they wanted to see it, and they said yes. So we're replaying it.
At least one full box of 38 special ammunition and a loose several other various brands of 38 special in his nightstand. And you'll see all those. You'll see the photographs of those. But where is the gun? No idea. Where are the bullets? They're in Scott's house. Scott's behavior. From the very beginning, like I told you, from the very beginning, Scott is saying, Melody, Melody, Melody. I thought she would do something, leading law enforcement down this trail. And you're going to see all that. It's going to be very evident of what his intentions are regarding his mother. He does it in his interviews, and he's going to do it on the stand here too. I would suspect that's exactly what he's going to do. But the most important thing is just in that few minutes of getting there, he's already talking about guns being missing that he's the only person that has seen. Then he goes out looking. You're also most likely going to be seeing there's a trail camera that was, if the burn pile was where I'm standing, was kind of, don't exactly know how far, but down closer to the lake, kind of pointing at they had a deer feeder down there. Take pictures of the animals. And you're going to see that coming up to that camera, for some reason, and I don't think we'll ever get a straight answer, we don't know why those photographs got deleted, or actually who actually deleted them. Now we know because they were recovered. So we know what photographs were on them, but we don't know of who deleted them. Now, you heard the judge talking about, before you took your oath, about what reasonable doubt was. And he said that reasonable doubt was a doubt of a fair-minded and impartial juror honestly seeking the truth. And he also went on for a little bit and talked about if your minds are unwavering, unsettled, or unsatisfied, that is a doubt to the law. And with that, you should acquit the defendant. So essentially, when you're looking at this case, whenever we had done, when you're evaluating this case and you're evaluating all the evidence, you got to say, has the state proven their case beyond a reasonable doubt? Now, what a reasonable doubt is that you have a doubt that you can put a reason to. And it's reasonable. It is a reasonable doubt. Now, that is a high burden for the state. Now, I'll go over this and close. I know it's like how it shows that even if the state can get to reasonable doubt, no, that's still an acquittal. That's still not guilty, because they have to go beyond reasonable doubt. And remember, that is just a doubt for which you can put a reason. So, ladies and gentlemen, when you have, like in this case, when you have questions that go unanswered, when we're talking about unanswered questions of how did we get to the burn pile? Where's the gun? Where's the bullets? Where are these simple things that we should be able to find. And why, when we find them, they're in a place that, well, we don't like where that's going. Law enforcement saw the bullets over in the barn. Yeah, here we are with Melody charged, malice murder, felony murder, ag assault. Nobody heard anything. You're not going to hear anything about this case that Melody heard, or that anybody heard Melody shoot him, or that she admitted to somebody that she shot him. You did hear from, and you'll hear from him again, from Mr. Bart, from Rusty, that he said, Melody said he's on the burn pile. And what Mr. Barton changed, and he'll be under direct and cross-examination in this case, is what he changed. He didn't change what she said. He changed when she said it. So he said, yes, Melody said they found him on the burn pile, not on the 4th. It was on either the 5th or the 6th when she was talking to him saying, hey, they found Gary dead on the burn pile. Rusty didn't change what he said. He told him when he said it. He got it wrong, and he corrected himself. So, ladies and gentlemen, when you have unanswered questions in a case like this, really the only answer is not guilty. Thank you.
All right, Mr. Fogus, you got witnesses ready?
All the kids told their dad, you guys should just divorce, this and that. There was no funny. She wasn't physically abusive or anything like that. So there was nothing they would have been able to do or sign that she was going to murder their dad. Do you think Gary was depressed because of the state of his marriage and Melody's affairs, along with his financial obligations? It sounds like they are in potential financial. I think he was. I think he was depressed. Absolutely do, because who was it? Not Amanda. Emily had said there was many times that her dad, they would have conversations. So I 100%, I think he honestly thought when he bought this farm, when she came back for her, that things would change, and it just never did. The dad involved, especially the son, in a lot of the intermarital stuff. I think Melody and Gary used the kids as sounding boards against each other. Absolutely. I agree 100% on that one. No matter what, the jury's seen all, though, and agreed on the right verdict. Absolutely.
The first one is by agreement of stipulation.
All right, go ahead. Y'all can decide whether y'all want the mobile lectern to stay there or whether y'all want to get rid of it. The last call, everybody used both of them. So.
It's good, Joseph. We keep it. The first exhibit is going to be, it's labeled 911-1 for 911 call. And it is July 5th, 2018 at 12:47 p.m. July 5th, 2018 at 12:47 p.m. It's about 2 minutes and 21 seconds, and it's Scott Farris. And Judge, I tune that to evidence this time by stipulation. All right. May I publish it? It's 911 and then 1 in parenthetical.
Okay. Sure would be offered about you.
I'm not.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Y'all agree to the foundation and
2155 Purcell Lane. My father has come up missing, and we just searched the property. It's a small farm, and I just found something near the fire that doesn't. He was burning brush. Now there's stuff in the fire that it could be him. I don't know.
Okay. All right, sir. What's Purcell Lane run off of?
It's right off of Birmingham Road.
You said 2155 Purcell Lane, that's correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, what is your name?
Scott Farris, Farris.
What's a good callback number for you, Scott?
404-861-2667.
How old is you said your father?
Yes, sir.
How old is
he just turned on the 68. Yeah.
68, okay.
Now I'm calling you to say that we've been walking around looking for him, and I went where the fire's still smoldering, and I'm ex-military. I was deployed to Iraq. I've seen what burned up bodies look like, and this looks like a body.
Okay. All right, sir. I've got him on the way out there for you. I'm going to send the police and the fire department out there. Just try and lead everything that you can, the way you found it down there, and we've got them on the way out there for you. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Is there anything else I can do for you, sir?
No, that'll be it.
All right, sir. Thank you.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
That's so cute, Susie.
Say, oh, Sarah Love. Sarah Love.
It's doing that system, so it's just a 911 one. And it when you go into it, like when you go into the front folder, that kind of thing.
Stand and stretch. Let's see what up there, Captain. Raise your right hand. These tell me whatever from the evidence you got in this matter shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I do.
Leah, there was plenty of red flags that the marriage was horrible. She was constantly cheating, taking money. She showed hatred to her children, got angry every time Gary helped the children or the children helped themselves. Absolutely, there was signs, but not signs that she would murder him.
Go ahead, have a seat, make yourself comfortable. Say your full name for the record.
Sarah Jane Love.
And where do you work and what do you do?
I'm a firefighter paramedic with Cherokee County Fire and Emergency Services.
What's your rank there?
Captain.
Tell the jury how long you've been doing what you do.
Sorry, guys. I thought the same thing, Rosemary. Melody took advantage of Gary so many times. I wonder if the reason he kept putting up with Melody's antics was financial. Maybe he was afraid to lose the farm and the divorce or losing his reputation. So I thought the same thing, but I heard one of the lawyers on YouTube talking about it. And they said in Georgia, if you can prove that your spouse is cheating, stuff like that, that they get 0 they get 0. So I honestly think he just didn't want a divorce. I think he wanted his family to work, and probably deep down he loved her because, she went away for that quite a bit of time and he still brought her back. Yep. And one of the daughters said they all wanted them to divorce. Yep. I think it was Emily that said that.
Well, I've been a paramedic for 28 years and I've been with the fire department for almost 22.
And what is I know there's paramedics, EMTs, and firefighters. What are they all and how are they different?
So there's an EMTI, which is like a basic, the lowest level you can work on an ambulance, and then an advanced, and then a paramedic.
And do you have a certain area that you work in the county, or is it just, how does that work?
You're typically assigned to a station.
You ever had to
a
testify
zone.
before at a trial?
I'm sorry?
You ever had to testify before at a trial?
Yes.
And you know why you're here today?
Yes.
I want to turn your attention now back to July 5th of 2018. It was a Thursday.
So
I think y'all
true.
responded around right around 12:59 p.m. to the residents in this case. Is that right?
I don't have the
state.
date and times in front of me, but yes, we did
Okay.
respond.
Do you remember, was it midday, afternoon?
Afternoon, I believe.
Okay, if I told you around 1 o'clock and you
I can stand corrected, but I believe so. She said she was helping a friend buy horses. And she killed him because of the insurance money. For her, it was all about the money. And she gets diddly shit now. Melody showed hatred towards Gary. She even threw dishes when Gary wouldn't clean up after himself. Yep. And then she'd take his cards and go buy new ones. Probably more expensive ones just to piss him off.
reason to disagree with me on that?
No.
All right. And do you remember where you went to, where the property was?
Yeah, it was in the area of Freeholm or Alpharetta.
2155 Purcell Lane in Alpharetta, Georgia.
Yes,
Is that the residence?
yes.
Just a little bit. Put the mic in front of you, talk over it, and be fine.
Okay,
And this was the Farris house, is that right?
I believe so, sir.
And was the house where you went and where all this occurred, what county was that in?
Cherokee County.
Do you remember what you got called out for?
We got called out for a person fell into a fire.
Just a person falling into a fire?
Initially, yes, sir.
Now, as you were heading out there, tell the jury just kind of what did you pack up, what did you take, and what did you expect to see?
Well, we responded with the fire truck and the ambulance. I was on the ambulance that day. We were originally dispatched to a person falling in the fire, and then it became a person down call, which means that.
Sorry, guys. Yes, he did know the BF was a realtor, I believe. Yes. And Latu, you were a star on Carl tonight. You got your chat up there quite a few times. I'm not cleaning up after another grown adult, and also I'm not breaking my own dishes, right?
They need resuscitation.
Means what? I'm sorry.
They need to be resuscitated. They don't have a pulse or not breathing.
As you were going there and going to the scene, what did you think you were going to find?
We were going to find a patient that needed to be resuscitated.
Like a person,
Yes.
maybe just falling out or something?
Yeah, we just from the information, he fell in the fire.
When you got there, do you remember seeing anybody from the family, a son or not?
Yes, somebody met us at the end of the driveway. The driveway was pretty long, so the guys on the fire truck were getting onto the ambulance with us to ride in, and there was a gentleman there at the end of the driveway so that he would show us where the body was at.
Were y'all there first before law enforcement, the sheriff's department?
I believe so, but they wasn't far behind us.
How long did it take you to get there from the call? The call came out about 12:47. Did it take you very long?
I don't believe so. I don't have my reports. I don't know exactly how long.
Was it a short drive?
Fairly short, yeah.
And when you arrived, just kind of tell the jury what you remember seeing.
Yeah, Rosemary says, I think you're right, Rochelle. I do remember Patty bringing up the part about a spouse. If they're caught cheating, they could lose their right to half of the marital assets. Yeah, and I can't remember which lawyer I heard say that too.
and what was going on.
So initially we stopped at the driveway, picked up the, what we found out later was the gentleman's son. He was telling us that he had been in Afghanistan and he had seen burned bodies before and he knew what they looked like. And I was trying to get information about if he was, breathing, if he was alert at the time, or, more information about the patient. And he just kept saying that over and over. And then when we got to the house, he rode in the back of the ambulance. When we got to the house, he walked us around to the back side of the house, to a large burn area.
When you first met with, who's going to be Scott, we believe, the son,
Yeah.
when you first met with him, when you were talking to him, were you trying to ask him questions to see if he would answer them?
I was just trying to find out what kind of condition at the time we assumed the patient was going to be in. If we were going to be working a cardiac arrest or just treating a burn patient, or what we were going to find when we got around to the back.
Was that because you thought there was going to be a human being there?
Mm-hmm.
And did you, when you were asking him questions, was it his state of mind? Was he telling you stuff? Was he able to tell you things?
He just kept saying over and over that he knew what a burned body looked like, and I was asking more like, was he breathing and was he conscious? And he just kept saying he knew what a burned body looked like.
You're going to approach the witness.
Go ahead. I don't have to ask.
Yes, Your Honor. Thank you. Now, we've marked exhibits a little differently in this case. Instead of 1 through whatever it is, we've met and marked them by numbers. Go ahead and take those if you haven't. Look at those. You had an opportunity to look at photographs before trial, I believe, haven't you?
Yes, sir.
Go ahead and look at those and see if those. Now, it's going to be labeled aerial, as in aerial photographs. Go ahead and look at 1 through 14.
Okay.
Are those photographs aerial 1 through 14? Do they fairly accurately represent the area that we're talking about?
Yes, sir.
Judge, this time I turn to evidence aerial 1 through aerial 14.
Shiraz says, all those guys in white uniforms back there are those police. What a nightmare to have a freaking white uniform with a job like that. I'm thinking that it is, but they're dress uniforms. That's what I think. Melody hated that Gary was smoking all over the house and drinking Mountain Dew because he was addicted to Mountain Dew. He was addicted to Mountain Dew. I think she poisoned him through his Mountain Dew.
14.
No, I didn't.
Judge, after you didn't, I just published what I asked for permission. That's fine. Thank you.
Anything we can do.
You see on your screen there, this is aerial 1. Do you see that?
Yes, sir.
By looking at the screen, this is just showing from the courthouse to the scene. Can you tell the jury about how long, how many miles it is, approximately normal drive, how much time?
From the courthouse, 34 minutes and 16 miles.
About 34 minutes or 16 and a half miles, is that right?
Yes, sir.
And Purcell Lane, what area of the county is that in, Cherokee County?
That'd be the northeastern corner.
And what is that, what type of homes and things are out there? Nice homes,
Yes, fairly large homes.
expensive area,
Yes,
affluent
sir.
area, I guess is what I'm trying to say?
Yes, sir.
And where were you coming from when you went there?
So where it says free home on the map and Highway 20, our station is about very close to Highway 20 at where you would have turned off Highway 20. Our station's right there.
This is aerial 2. This is showing coming down the road Purcell Lane as you come down Purcell. And was the driveway where you picked up Scott, was that at the kind of right there where Purcell Lane is and the driveway meets?
Yes, sir.
So do you remember the long driveway going up?
Yes.
So did you meet Scott down here or up in the driveway? Where was it?
At Purcell Lane. The fire engine's too big to get down the driveway.
Right.
So the ambulance stopped there and the crew from the fire truck jumped on the back of the ambulance.
So everybody hopped in the ambulance and went up the driveway?
Yeah.
Aerial 3, this is just an overhead Google map showing the property is. How would you describe this property if you could say, this is the type of property, this is what it was like?
It's a very large, nice property. Couldn't really see the house at all from the road, from the trees. It's a very large property.
We've taken some aerials about a year later, some drone photographs that you've been able to review. And this is aerial 4, so this is a snippet, if you would, from an aerial. Does this kind of look like the area that you went to on July 5th of 2018?
Yes, sir. I was more or less looking in the back, talking to the son. So I wasn't paying a whole lot of attention to the driveway, but yes, sir, that is the.
As we look at aerial 4, this photograph on the left of the screen is this big long driveway. Do you see that?
Yes, sir.
As aerial 5, as you move up the driveway, is it correct to say that there's a road or driveway that goes to the right to the barn, but y'all went straight up to the house?
Correct, sir.
And then aerial 6, is this an aerial showing the pond?
Yes, sir.
Is this the house behind the trees here?
It appears to be. Yes, sir.
How about that? Aerial
Yes, sir.
7?
Yes, sir. That is the house.
Aerial 8, just another overview. Now, when you parked, and again, this is about a year later, but as you walk, did y'all walk around as where my mouse is on this item that's here, this white item? Did y'all go around this side, this left side, if you were facing the house?
Yes, sir. I believe so.
And then as you came around, did you come over to the back side where the burn pile was?
Yes, sir. We did.
Tell the jury, when you arrived expecting to see a person, when did things change for you? What did you see and what changed?
As we're walking up to the burn pit, you could see some long bones. I saw a foot and the skull.
And when you saw that, what in your mind was going on? What were you saying to yourself?
Just trying to make sense of it. It's not something you would typically see. So I was like like the skull, I thought maybe it was a rock. So I kind of moved it a little bit and put it back the way I found it. And the foot, is probably what stands out the most is the foot.
What equipment did you have with you to expect to find a person?
So the guys from the engine grabbed the bed and the equipment, the cardiac monitor, the jump bag, and they were coming behind me, and me and the son were walking, a little bit ahead of them.
When you got there, what was found? What happened?
Well, when I saw the bones, I advised dispatch that it wasn't a person down. It was a signal 48, which means a deceased person, and then to have the coroner.
Did anybody touch the bones or do anything with it?
Only like I said, sir, the top of the skull looked like it may have been a rock, so I kind of lifted it a little bit and then put it back where it was when I realized it was definitely the skull.
So things changed from a person being held to a body, basically?
Correct.
Remains? Is that
Yes, sir.
Fair? Did law enforcement, were they quickly on the scene at that point? Did they come up?
Yeah, I remember them being right behind us.
Now, I know you've probably seen a lot of things in your career, haven't you?
Yes, sir.
But did this shock you?
Yes, sir.
This takes aerial 11, just showing this is a photograph showing the house in relation to the pond.
Yes, sir.
Aerial 12 going back over the pond to the arena, the sand pit. Is that fair?
Yes, sir.
13 just marching back down the driveway, leaving.
Yes, sir.
And then 14 just going back to the road.
Yes, sir.
Now, you've had an opportunity to look at some, law enforcement was able to do some drone videos about a year later in June of 2019. Did you have an opportunity to look at those drone videos?
I did.
Judging this time, and were those videos fair and accurate as you know the property to be when you saw it?
Yes, sir.
I tender evidence now, aerial 15, aerial 16, and aerial 17, which are 3 drone videos done by the sheriff's office about a year later.
All right, any objections?
No objection.
All right, they're admitted. Go ahead.
I'm just going to let this one play. It's about 2 minutes and 10 seconds long.
Because we know better. Happy. We've watched too much of this.
Just maybe dim the lights or it's not.
Armand, I think that's where they let the horses, they would run the horses in there. That's what I've always thought it was. This here, this right here. Greed, lust, hatred, and evil took a chokehold of many in 2024. Maybe 2025 not get any of us. And maybe 2025 will be the year of justice. Armand, the big oval area is a corral for the horses. Yeah, that's what I thought too. However, if someone touches my dogs, I'm packing up for my prison time. Oh, the pond, Susie, I believe the pond. So when you went down here and there was that bridge, there was a pond over in here. If I remember correctly. But I believe this is the corral for the horses.
Flip the switch, right? Flip the switch down.
Oh, there's the pond there. Sorry, I was wrong. It was the other way. Such a beautiful property. Absolutely beautiful property.
We play now aerial 16, which is about 7 minutes and 13 seconds long. And Captain Love, while that's going on, you went around this as the drone is going. This left side is kind of how y'all approach the burn pile.
Yes, sir.
It's gorgeous property. Exactly. Melody never claimed Gary was murdered. She tried to make it look like an accident. How come she never went to law enforcement and claimed that someone like her son murdered Gary? Instead, she said it was an accident. Yeah. When she said in her statement, "Where's that recording, Hayes? Where's that recording?" I almost thought she's really sure she said that, and there's a recording of it. Could you imagine if there was actually a recording? Absolutely beautiful property. Wonder what it was valued at. Oh, Patty said. Rosemary, can you remember what Patty said that value of it was? Rochelle giggle, ain't nothing better. Yeah, too, thank you. Patty mentioned it the other day. Think total today it's 2 million. But it was taken back from the bank, correct? If a tractor was used, there would be tire tracks. Yes, you're right, because going up to the house there was a hill. Going down was a slope. But Armand, do you not think she could have tied, if it was in the house? I believe it was at the fire pit, but if it was at the house, could she not have tied a strap to Gary and to the tractor and not had to move the tractor up that knoll and just dragged him to the fire pit? Oh my God, even the thought of it is horrible. Even the thought. That's why I spent most of his time at work. What a beautiful place, though. Oh my God, can you imagine waking up there every day? Oh, I don't even believe there was a real interrogation like that. They went to, it's like they went to what's called their fire station, but there's like halls, like big rooms, and they were all sitting around there and talking many a time. So there was not like an interrogation like Wendy or any of them went through. At Shraj, she wasn't around much. She went to visit Martha Jane and Rusty a lot. She went to the Super 8 often. It was sold $975,000. They had to take a loss because it was going to be foreclosed on. They weren't able to make payment on the house. Oh my God, what a beautiful house. At Shiraz, it's a beautiful house and property, way too big for my style. As much as I love all those animals, I prefer the city, always. The two, you'll hear it, she never shut up, and they just let her keep talking. Yeah. It was all recorded. Nothing, there was no, it wasn't videotaped, I believe. Her property like that would be worth 15, here property like that would be worth 15 to 20 million. It's just so gorgeous, that property. There's a bunch of fireworks going off. We see that around here often and a lot. I have a rule of thumb that I can't live anywhere that takes me more than 10 minutes to get to a Tim Hortons. As much as this is beautiful and I know I would love it so much, I'd be like, no, there's no Tim Hortons.
Talking about another spot here later, was that the area of the burn pile?
Yes, sir.
That's just unbelievable, right? And in Canada, the McDonald's coffee is the old Tim Hortons blend. When they switched to their new blend, they sold off their old blend to McDonald's because a lot of Tim Hortons coffee drinkers now drink McDonald's because they like the old blend better. You don't have to worry about having all that land that could a fire pit that could be burned on.
Kevin Love on State's Exhibit Aerial 16, roughly right at 7 minutes. Is this a view showing from the burn pile to the house?
Yes, sir.
Oh, could you just imagine seeing that out your window? Oh,
Next is State's Exhibit Aerial 17, which is 4 minutes and 27 seconds. Another drone video.
Rosemary said, is he in the fire pit in that shot, or did they already remove his remains because there was nothing left of him? They already removed, but we all know, like anybody that even owns that property now, there's no way to get all him out of there because he was turned to ash. Like a 300 man turned down to 33 pounds. That was his resting. That basically is his resting place. I'm not a coffee drinker, but isn't Starbucks strong? It is strong, and you might as well sell your first, third, and sixth child if you're a Starbucks fan, because oh my God, they're expensive. Yeah, this was after it was removed, but what they could remove, right? It's a burn pit. Not going to be able to distinguish the ashes from everything else and him. So, majority of him is still there. Yeah, well, even most of his ashes are still there. There would have been no way for them to know the difference. So majority of poor Gary is still on this land. So here's a question. I'm wondering, in Georgia, do they have to, when you sell a house, or say you're even renting, because here in Ontario, you have to. If you sell or rent and somebody's died in the property or on the property, you have to disclose that. I'm wondering if they had to disclose that in Georgia. They had to wait until the fire cooled down before they could remove his remains, and Melody would not pay to cremate him. He still waits at a funeral home. Kids are planning something. Yeah, and again, right, too, that's only 33 pounds of the man. I can't imagine those poor kids finding their dad like that. I couldn't do that to my kids. Yeah, it was horrible. Armand says, playing the devil's advocate here, how does Scott benefit from the deletion? Even if his mom did not get the money, the kids would split 4 ways. Exactly. But the thing is, if Melody was not in prison, she would have gotten everything. If Scott was to have done this, then Melody would have got everything. Unless Scott framed his mom to take the fall where she'd be in prison, and then they would split 4 ways. So I see what you're saying, Armand. California, but I think only for 5 years. Oh, really? Your state must disclose. In Alberta, you do. It's called stigmatized, Rochelle. I think Patty says, no, you don't there. Wow. Yeah, and here in Ontario, doesn't matter how long. If somebody passed away, somebody was murdered in the property or on the property, you have to disclose it. You can actually be charged if you don't. Patty said Florida does not disclose. Yeah, but I'm wondering about Georgia. Wouldn't that be... Scott needed his dad alive. Gary was funding his life. He'd have too much to lose. Melody, on the other hand, had the most to gain. Life insurance. Absolutely. That's why I think, like, in the beginning, I did doubt Scott. I'm not going to lie. I did. But as the evidence came through more and more, I was like, oh, this don't make sense. His dad was funding his life. If anything, if Scott was to do anything, it would have been to unalive the mother, not the father. I'm a bit funny about that. I would be creeped out. But also there's a housing crisis. I could get over it. Rosemary, I think Patty looked into that, Rochelle. I don't remember if Patty found the answer to disclosing if someone died on a property in Georgia. Yeah. She would have gotten everything, and I bet Amanda would have been the only kid she would have given a nickel to. Guaranteed. Guaranteed. I believe that. I don't even think we have rules for this where I am from, because red drums are extremely rare. But even if somebody from natural causes passed away, yeah, you really do. And in Ontario, it truly does hurt your property value. Truly does. Agreed.
And Captain on State's exhibit aerial 17.
Do the ghosts of dead people go with the debris of the teardowns or something? No, they stay. If they want to stay on that property, they stay. They're going to keep visiting you. That's what I was thinking too, Rochelle. If Scott was thinking of getting rid of anyone, it's his mother. The father was the ATM, and he had a free place to stay. Why would he off his father? Exactly. And the mother was only a thorn in his side. So my parents died at home within weeks of each other. Expected. I don't know if that's a double whammy bad thing or not, but it did seem to affect the price sold. Oh, that's awesome. Well, it's not awesome both your parents went. No, it's awesome that it didn't affect the price. At Latu, I live in Singapore. I meant no rules like this here. I've had people on both sides of me pass away. My odds aren't great. No. My aunt that just passed, she was such a bright light in life, but she loved the paranormal. She just truly loved it. And her last words to us as a family before we all left and she was with her husband, and that was, I love you all and I'm going to haunt you all. And we all laughed because it was so her. So she put a smile on our faces by saying that. Actually, as I thought about that, I mean, people have died all over. Hospitals get torn down. Lots of people died. Yep.
Roughly at 3 minutes and 45 seconds, is it showing 2 doors on that side of the house on the basement level?
Yes, sir.
That's awesome, Irene.
After you realized what you were dealing with, did you turn the scene over to law enforcement?
Yes, sir.
No further questions?
All right. Anything?
Yes, Your Honor.
Like, we need to replay the video.
No, Your Honor.
All right. Flip them back up, please.
Good afternoon, Captain Love. My name is John Luke Weaver, and I represent Melody Farris in this matter. And it is Captain, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So on that day, you responded with who?
Me and my partner, Kenny Holland, were on the ambulance. On the fire truck was Jacob Kinney and Megan Hamilton.
Okay. So you got off of the ambulance.
Yes.
And you get, again,
Sorry, and Shrez, I'm probably going to say probably hospitals and that. And when that gets torn down and new builds, like new subdivisions get built, probably takes away that stigma. But I mean, like for a residential home, you have to. The grass looks mowed and the trees look trimmed. Yeah. I wonder if cold case crimes find DNA in homes, even though the new people have nothing to do with the case. Wouldn't that be something? What a beautiful paradise. You could see why Gary or Melody didn't want to leave the home and property. Unfortunately, it cost Gary his life. Yeah, it was beautiful. It is beautiful. Can't refuse a hospital bed because someone does on that room either. No. So come on with it, John Luke, with your snarky self. Yeah, guys, you're going to love John Luke. Gonna love him. Armand Fence here, I believe they call that smudging. They smoke them out. Yep. when smoke them out. Right, it's a made up and self-fulfilling factor. I thought you were British. I've been chatting on my best accent. Oh no.
The fire truck could not make it up the driveway.
Correct.
Why was that?
Because the weight of the fire truck, we don't typically drive the fire truck on driveways. If it's a long driveway, they'll either have to walk or they'll jump in the back of the ambulance with us. And on that call, they jumped in the back of the ambulance.
So you get out, you've got your pack, you don't really know what you have at the time, as you testified to earlier, but you walked up the driveway and you encountered, who did you encounter?
So at the end of the driveway, when we stopped and the crew from the fire truck was getting on, there was a gentleman at the end of the driveway telling us that he could show us where at the time we thought a patient was.
Okay. Now, you stated earlier that he kept saying to you he knew what a burned body looked like.
Correct.
And that's something that's
Crime and Coffee's global crew. It's just after 1 a.m. for me. December 7th. What's the future look like, Happy? What's the future look like for me? Went to college in London, laugh out loud, so you are almost right. Went to grad school in Mass, so know something of America too.
that's resonated in your memory 6.5 years later.
Yes, sir.
All right. That was Scott Farris, correct?
Yes, sir.
All right. What was his demeanor?
He was, I guess the best word is just panicked.
Okay. Do you remember anything else? Did he say anything else to you about where the location of this was?
You're so sweet.
That he would show us. He said it was a pretty good walk. He would show us where it was.
Now, were there any other family members close by as this was happening?
I did not see anyone else.
Did you speak to any of the other family members on the property?
No, sir.
Did he mention to you or to anybody that worked with you that day, did he ever bring up anything about a missing gun?
No, sir.
All right. But how many times do you think he said he knew what a burned body looked like?
Probably 2-3 times when I was asking questions when we were still in the back of the ambulance.
All right. Do you remember anything else he said?
I don't remember when he said it, but he said his dad had been missing for a couple of days and they'd been looking for him, but that wasn't unusual for him to be missing, I guess.
He said that to you?
Yes.
And that's when he walked you back there himself?
Yes.
And that was just as we saw in the video, back down the house, from behind the house. What would you say the grade on that piece of property was?
It was a little bit of an incline, but not too steep.
All right. And how far behind? I mean, because videos and pictures certainly don't do justice necessarily to being there in person. How far behind the house would you say that burn pile was?
I couldn't tell you. Because, I mean, at the time, I'm not thinking about how far I'm walking. I'm just like walking, trying to get some information and thinking about what we're going to do.
So generally speaking, the images that we saw today were taken roughly a year later. You didn't take those pictures, correct?
Correct.
Right. But compare and contrast the state of the burn pile that day, July the 5th, 2018.
Just in reference to my report, estimated it was probably about a 6 foot in diameter. I don't remember, I think 3 feet maybe high.
Was it still smoking? Could you tell? Was it hot?
I don't remember seeing any smoke. And we didn't bring our thermometer down there to check because.
At Latu, very much okay this way. Thanks for asking. My 2 pups and I are in danger of overeating. That's all. At some point, Rochelle's going to find her way to South Korea to meet my good friend Happy. Someday I will find my way there.
we were on a EMS call and we were thinking, get the patient, go to the hospital.
And you mentioned that, now, did you have any gloves or anything like that on?
Yeah, we had medical exam gloves on.
So I imagine that you wouldn't have thought it was a very hot fire if you would reach down and touch it.
No, sir, it wasn't.
Right. When you touched what was a remain, was it hot?
I don't remember it being hot, not like to burn me. It was warm outside, so it wasn't like it was on fire currently or enough to burn me, but it was, I guess, ambient temperature.
There'll be a number of expert witnesses. I expect that the state is going to. I keep thinking there's a map up there, but there's not. There's a number of expert witnesses that I believe the state's going to call, kind of talking about how they have mapped out the burn.
Happy says, I can plan it with you. It's super easy. I'll be here another couple years. Are you moving back to the States when you're done in a couple years? What kind of doggos you got? Wow, just watched the most amazing fireworks display. It went on for a long time. I'm just like, hurry up. I got a show to watch. It's beautiful though. Susie says, according to Georgia law, sellers are not required to voluntarily tell a potential buyer about a death on the property. Source, Uncle Google. Uncle Google. Shelter rescues, aka Nutsos, border aka Nutsos, border collie mix and a dash out mix. Oh, that's what I should call Jakius, aka Nutso. Yes, I'll be back to the States. Oh, that's awesome. I believe that Patty said they were asking for $1.2 million and had to sell the house for $975,000 because they weren't able to make the mortgage payments because the bank accounts were frozen after the murder. Yeah, I remember Patty saying that. She's so great at finding all the real estate stuff. That woman's amazing.
The burn pile, where certain things were found within the burn pile. But you stated that you picked up what I believe you believe to be the skull of Mr. Farris.
I didn't know who, but yes, it appeared to be a skull.
But you picked it up, yes?
I didn't pick it up.
Okay.
I lifted like the corner and let it lay back down to where it was.
Immediately laid it back down.
Yeah, I did not move it.
Okay.
I mean, I didn't pick it up to move it.
You didn't pick it up and hold it in your hand?
No, sir.
You just
I just
rolled
made
it
sure
and
it
put
was.
back.
I just made sure it was like not a rock, and there was,
And that would have been when you made the Signal 48?
Yes, sir.
Was Scott Farris standing there when you were doing that?
I assume so. I mean, he walked us back there, and he was still back there when we were leaving. I don't think he left.
Any other family members around?
I do not remember any other family members.
Did you ever remember speaking with my client, Melody Farris?
No, sir.
And did you see her even?
I did not.
When you walk down there, and I believe this is important, so I take your time to answer this question.
Yep.
Because all of Cherokee County responded following you after your Signal 48. Did you ever notice any tractor marks near the fire?
I did not notice, sir.
All right. Did you notice any RTV tire treads? Like a tire tread, a car tread, any kind of a tire?
I did not notice.
All right. How about, could you see where horse hoof marks would be somewhere around the fire? Could you see any of that?
I didn't notice anything like that.
All right. Any tools or implements for the fire?
I didn't notice. I wasn't looking for stuff like that.
Yeah, she was. Melody was the one when they were walking around, kind of guided them to the fire pit. And then that's when Scott noticed that it looked like a body, not a goat. And he walked away and called 911. Yeah, Patty's a real estate guru. She's a real whiz at researching real estate. Absolutely. She's such a good, nice person too.
Either,
Yes, ma'am.
But I did not notice.
Anything else you would remember about that day?
No, sir.
How long did you leave after the Signal 48?
Pretty quickly after I called and told them that it was a Signal 48 and law enforcement was there, we turned the scene over quickly as possible, especially for the ambulance to get back in service for, the next emergency call. So we left pretty quickly.
I may have one brief second, Your Honor. That's all I have, Judge. Thank you.
Can you redirect?
No, Your Honor.
All right, you can sit down. Thank you, ma'am.
Yes, your names will call.
All right. That's fine. All right, call your next witness.
This is time to take off Robert Raleigh. Robert Raleigh.
Y'all stretch.
It was a pointless cross.
Just before we allow, we'd like to finish with this witness today. We won't need more after this. This won't be very long.
You got another one to call? Next is gonna be long. Are they here? We'll do the preliminary stuff.
Sir, raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the evidence you about to present in this matter shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Have a seat, state your name for the record, and tell us where you work and what do you do?
Ben Raleigh, I work for Cherokee County Sheriff's Department, UPD, been there 11 and a half years.
And what do you do at the Sheriff's Department?
Investigate crimes, car crashes, supervise, and road patrol.
I want to turn your attention now to Thursday, July 5th, 2018, probably right around 1 p.m. Did you respond to 2155 Purcell Lane in Alpharetta, Cherokee County, Georgia?
I did.
Tell the jury what you responded for.
I responded for a person down. Essentially, I guess the son of the mother called and said he'd been to Iraq, seen a person burning before. He knows what it looks like, and I responded as the supervisor.
Where'd you come from?
That precinct.
How long did it take you to get there?
It took me quite a while.
And when you respond, what do you remember seeing there?
There was some family outside, and there was another deputy at the front porch.
You got your cell phone with you?
I do.
Is it on?
Yeah.
Do me a favor, the judge allows. Can you Google what day of the week is July 5th, 2018?
Judge, you okay?
I've got a calendar.
I have a savings calendar in the back.
This is perfect calendar. No objection. Judge, I'll tender to evidence now State's Exhibit Raleigh 1, which is a calendar. Did you beat me?
Yes. There you go.
All right. So looking at State's Exhibit Raleigh 1 for your name and your one exhibit there, number one, July 2018, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. So you respond July 5th, which is a Thursday?
Yes, sir.
About 1 o'clock?
Yes, sir.
And do you have an opportunity to review State's Exhibit Raleigh 2, which is just a portion of your video from your patrol vehicle?
Yes, sir.
Is it fair and accurate and describe you pulling up the driveway?
Yes, sir.
Judge, at this time I'm tendering to evidence State's Exhibit Raleigh 2, which is a clip from his patrol vehicle video.
Okay.
Tendering to evidence this time.
Go ahead. Move.
Yes, you.
Yes, sir.
to the screen, you'll see yourself walking up there.
Yes, sir.
Hey, I have no idea. It looks like one of ours. You go around to the left of the house. Yes, sir. Thank you.
And the judge doesn't like to work either.
When you arrived, where did you go?
I went to the left side of the house
And where'd you end up?
and inside the house.
Did you go in how did you see in the house? Did you see Melody Farris, the defendant in the house?
Yes, sir.
Now let the record reflect. Is this the defendant that you saw in the house?
You know, I believe so.
Okay.
It's 6 years ago. Yes, sir.
She looked like the person that you saw.
Yes, sir.
When you went in, where was she at?
She was on the outside, and then she came on inside.
Did you clear the house?
I did.
Tell the jury what clearing the house is.
So clearing the house is anytime you go on scene, you need to make sure that nothing else is inside the house, and that's just standard operating procedure. What we do.
When you walked in, did the defendant go and get anything from the house?
Yes, sir.
And what was that?
She asked if she could enter the house. She forgot to get 2 rings that were inside a drawer, and I allowed her to do so. And we went inside the house. She went into a junk drawer and pulled out 2 rings and put them on her ring finger.
Where was this in the house? Do you remember?
It was on inside the kitchen.
The kitchen area.
Yes, sir.
And then after that, what happened?
And then she left. She went back outside.
At any point while you were out there, were you, I guess, tasked with doing security or making sure nothing was getting moved, things like that?
Yes, sir.
And did you ever smell anything?
Yes, sir.
Tell the jury what you smelled.
Just like cleaning solution, like bleach. It was a very faint odor.
Remember anything about a candle?
Yes. The candle was reflected in my report. I can't remember exactly the candle. It was 6 years ago.
But there was a candle burning in the house?
Yes, sir.
Nothing further, Judge.
All right, Mr. Weaver.
Now, you said, are you corporal?
Yes, sir.
Corporal, I'm John Luke Weaver, and I represent Melody Farris. So what you just summed up, was that, how long were you there that day?
I was there for a while. I mean, if it happened at 1 o'clock, I wasn't relieved until about 5:30, 6 o'clock.
All right, so you were there 4 or 5 hours.
Sure.
All right. And you were the first one to respond, the Cherokee County Sheriff's Office?
Incorrect.
Okay. Who was?
I believe it was be on CAD, but I know that I relieved Deputy Moss at the time.
All right. So there had already been a number of people there by the time you got there.
Sure.
All right. And you walk in, were you the first person to talk to Miss Farris that you know of?
I don't know.
Had anybody else, so you walked in the house immediately once you got there?
I don't remember.
All right. And you walked in the house and you immediately smelled, what did you say you smelled?
The odor like a cleaning solution, like bleach.
All right. Did you walk into a laundry room? Did you notice there was a laundry room close by when you walked in the house?
I don't remember.
Okay, you don't remember. And a candle, what did you say you smelled a candle burning?
I believe there was it reflected in my report that there was a candle. I don't recall.
Because you don't recall the candle.
Correct.
Then why would you write in a report that this candle was important to you, but you don't remember what it was?
Because that's 6 years ago.
Is it unusual for people to have a candle burning in their house?
Sure. Is it unusual?
Yes. Is it unusual? Or is it usual?
Yeah.
It's normal.
Correct.
So why was that unusual to you?
I don't know.
Okay. And
Just
is it
where it was.
unusual for people to clean their houses?
Yeah, that's standard.
It's standard. And when you walk into a house, some of them smell clean, correct?
Sure.
All right. And would this have been any more different than if you walked into anybody's clean house? Yours, for example.
No.
Go ahead, Vic. Okay, hold on, one more.
it was unusual to him. We'll know later why he wrote it in his report about the candle. It's because where it was.
All right, so you cleared this house, yes?
Correct.
All right. And was anybody else with you?
I believe Deputy Moss.
Okay. And when you cleared this house, did you notice anything else out of place?
I don't know.
Okay. Did you notice any blood splatter?
No, sir.
Did you notice any droplets of blood?
No, sir.
Did you notice a bullet surreptitiously placed in the floor in the basement?
No, sir.
Okay.
Welcome, Mary Lou. There is a difference between smelling like a clean house and smelling bleach. Absolutely, there definitely is. Welcome to the coffee crew. Interesting that Melody brought up the video camera. She made sure that she wasn't caught on the video camera committing the crime. Is that another tell by Melody? Did she tamper with the camera? Oh, the one there in the woods. Good chance. The trail cam. At Happy, thanks. Dolores and Donna are my pugs, and Mike is a chai.
Nothing else. You just noticed maybe the smell of, you say bleach, maybe.
Yeah, cleaning solution bleach.
And a candle.
Yes, sir.
But you don't remember what the candle smelled like.
No.
Okay. Anything else? Fair.
All right, thank you. Debbie, I want to follow up on this candle. I think you were in the kitchen, is that right?
Correct.
Yes, Scott deleted trail cams, but I don't think he deleted it for to hide anything. Like he said, it was just routine for him. Every time he checked the trail cams, he would just reset it. So.
And you say it's been 6 years?
Yes.
Don't remember everything?
Don't.
Did you write a report?
Yes, sir.
Or you taught to write something significant or important to put in your report?
Absolutely.
Would it refresh your memory, your recollection, to be able to look at your report and see what you said or wrote down about the candle?
Yes.
Just my approach. And with all this technology now, I have the reports on my laptop. So what I want you to do is take my laptop, just hold it to yourself. Is that your report?
Yes, sir.
Do me a favor, go ahead and just read it to yourself. Don't read it out loud. Go to the section at the bottom there where it talks about the candle. All right, now being in the kitchen, there was a door. Where was the candle at?
I don't remember it was a big house. I don't remember exactly where the candle was.
Okay, do you remember what room it is?
No, sir.
Do you now recall what you wrote in your report where the candle was?
Yeah, the candle was being lit in front of the basement door.
Now approach now. Basement door.
Yes, sir.
Nothing further.
Yeah, exactly. So that's why he wrote the candle in his thing, because at the base of the basement door, wasn't on a stand or nothing, it was on the floor. She was burning a candle there. I believe the verdict took about 3 days. Correct me if I'm wrong. The judge was so casual with the jury. I swear the judge was going to take them all golfing with him while they deliberated. Yeah, was it 3 or was going into the 4th day? Because I think I was remembering I thought it was 4. Could be wrong. That's weird about Scott and the trail cam. Wouldn't you be scouring that? Well, he did look at it. But like Latu said, he deleted everything that was useless. And it was just habit for him to do that. But they do make a huge thing. And yet she was terrified of fire burning down the house. Yep. But sitting at the base of the door.
Did you take any photos of where this candle was?
No, sir.
Are you aware of any being taken of this candle?
I'm not sure.
Okay. Did you ever look in the dining room where the candle was?
Again, I couldn't even tell you where the dining room was.
Right. And you couldn't tell me where the laundry room was either.
Correct.
That's all, Judge.
Hey, anything else?
No, Your Honor.
All right, you can step down.
Thanks, sir.
All right,
Just gonna be approached, just kidding.
all right. Off getting behind, but the attorneys have said that the next witness is going to be lengthy and they don't want to start for 30 minutes and then break for the evening and then start back in the morning. So we're going to recess today. Y'all report back in the morning at, I want y'all here at 8:45 in the jury room. So that means y'all need to get here before that downstairs. There'll be someone, like I said, at your parking spaces. Does anyone know where are they under the deck? Does anyone have any idea? Drive around till you see someone who will direct you where you're supposed to go, or you see cones. There'll be some orange cones when you come in. I believe they're going to be under the parking deck. So when you pull in straight from the street entrance, go under the parking deck, and I think it'll either be under the parking deck or that first row in front of the parking deck. But they're probably going to put them under the deck in case we have weather, and that way y'all are not in the rain. So look for the orange cones or tape blocking off. There should be someone there directing you where to go. That way we don't worry about having a place for y'all to park when we have hundreds of people here throughout the trial. It's critically important, everything I've told you so far about not talking to anyone about the case, looking up anything about the case, the witnesses, the parties, reviewing anything about the trial. There is multiple sources of what y'all have already observed on the internets right now. Don't watch any of it. If someone brings it to your attention, ignore it. If it pops up in your feed, ignore it. All those things. And again, if anything significant happens, let us know and we'll address that in the morning. Does anybody have any questions or concerns about what we're supposed to do between now and tomorrow? If there are any issues that come up overnight, if someone gets sick, something like that, call the jury phone number, leave a message. They'll check the phone first thing when or send an email to them, whatever they want you to do. But check in with that, and they will call you in the first.
And it was written in his notes. It was written where the candle was. But you have to remember, this trial took 6 years to get to trial. So when you've got all these people and they've had other cases since then, things kind of, don't get stored in your memory. Honey, just read it to me and I'll ignore what you're saying. Yeah. Exactly. Scott said he'd never had anyone come onto the property, so the camera only ever showed skunks, etc. Yeah.
First thing in the morning and give you all direction on what to do. And we will bring you in and accommodate whatever we can, how best we can. All right. Anything else we need to take up before I dismiss the jurors? All right. I told the bailiff to instruct y'all if y'all want to bring in some snacks or drinks or things like that. Y'all can use bailiff can put them in my fridge. Anything else? All right. And we'll recess for the day. See y'all in the morning. Y'all don't go nowhere yet.
Never did. Never did, Latu.
All right, I think we had. I think we had talked, Mr. Weaver, Mr. Ray, that y'all had talked to your client about sidebars.
We probably need to put it on.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Let's put that on the record. So, I think we talked about it, Ms. Farris, but I don't think we specifically went on the record with it. We just had a short sidebar. As I indicated to the jury, we're not going to do anything substantive over there. We huddled up over there, and the state said our next witness is going to be lengthy, and we would rather call them tomorrow instead of going forward today. I asked your attorneys, and they said, that's fine with us. That is most likely going to be the nature of anything that we talk about on the side. You have the right to be present for anything in regard to your trial, and there are a couple of Supreme Court decisions that say that a bench conference is in fact a critical stage and part of the trial, and you have the right to be present. But as a practical matter, sending the jury out to the jury room while we do something like that can be counterproductive and disruptive. So do you agree to waive your presence for those type bench conferences? You need to say yes on the record. All right. She indicates that's okay. As I said, I will do my best. If anything substantive comes up, I will stop it, and we will send the jury out and take it up outside their presence.
Her face just annoys
And
me.
if there's anything else that we need to take up, we will bring it and give you an opportunity to address it during the next break. But I plan on it just being logistical things like that. All right. Anything else we need to take up before we break for the day?
What do you think about schedule-wise tomorrow? Go long until.
I'd like to go at least till 5. Shoot for 5:30 every day,
Okay.
and
Break at noon for lunch, or
we'll break 12:30 and break for an hour and 15 minutes tomorrow. I'm not bringing food tomorrow, but we may do that on Wednesday.
Yes, Sean.
All right. Anything else?
Hang on.
All right. We'll be in recess. Thank y'all.
And we did excuse me.
Yes. And y'all have your conference room, but y'all can leave whatever you want in here or in your remote office in the building.
Yep, Susie, that's 2 now. So that was day 1, guys. That was day 1 of the Melody Farris trial. So tomorrow is Saturday. I have to work again tomorrow, unfortunately. And so I'm curious with the coffee crew, do you guys want to do a Sunday marathon of the Melody Farris trial so we can get through quite a bit of it? It's up to you. We can start early and just do a straight out marathon. Okay, so we'll do a Sunday marathon. So that being said, there won't be a live tomorrow. Armand's good with that. Whatever you guys want, that's what we do. And I thought we could just start in the morning and Two says, I'll be popping in and out, but okay if everyone else is. Yeah, we'll just start in the morning and we'll just go right through because we have, I'm just looking at it because Tuesday we have Donna. I wonder if Melody has this poor diaphragm. I wonder if Melody has her diaphragm on her. There's a lot of men around her since Rusty isn't around. Susie says, gotta crash. Thanks so much for a fun replay. Sunday sounds good. Just don't start early. Well, we could start around noon. That way we can all sleep in. Yeah, I brought property in West Bank at one time. Remember, 940 here. Good night, Susie. Take care of you. So yeah, it's a good trial. For people that haven't seen it, it is a very good trial. Way better. Oh, I'm way better than that Mississippi trial. Oh my God, it's driving my head insane, that trial. But their judge in that trial is actually going to be there tomorrow. He's actually going to have the case on a Saturday. So I've already said we're not doing it. We'll review it Monday. We'll go over it Monday, and then we'll be a day behind, but at least we can speed it up. That wasn't hers. She was holding it in her purse for a friend. Who does that? Who does that? It gets a bit dry and lengthy, but all witnesses are important. Yeah. Well, and that's what I mean. We can get through all the sidebars, all the gookity gook, and all that. We can speed through it. The same friend she was holding her phone for. Oh, I was really disappointed in her monologue that she did was that she didn't mention the diaphragm. What kind of friend asked you to carry her diaphragm around for her? I don't like nobody that much. No. I no. Oh. I think when I heard that, when I watched the trial, I was like, what is being said here? Aloha all, fun bunch. Have a good weekend all. You too, Susan. Thank you for joining us. You're a great addition. I looked and we're 60. I looked and our numbers have not budged in a long time. We're 2,931. I know that's a lot of because I took some time off there for being sick. I know no guy who ever held a condom for his friend. No. I can try, Rochelle. Sunday is weird for me. If I can make it, I will. I hope you can. But Rosemary, you are a great addition to our coffee crew, and we appreciate you so much. At least a condom is single use at Armand. It's not rinse and reuse. Oh my God. Not rinse and repeat. Oh God. Now I'm going to have this in my head, my image in my head of the Grinch rinsing and repeat. You're swapping diaphragm, sharing your friend's diaphragm. Oh. Never fails on Crime and Coffee when we end up talking about something just very off. You guys are a great group. I appreciate every one of you. Spread the love. Oh, that's what Melody Farris was doing. Spreading the love. Oh my God. Okay, are we admitting here that she looks like the Grinch? Are we? Because I mean, dying to say that. Everybody has said it. Oh, she does look like the Grinch. I said it from the first day. The first day I was watching on Patty when we were watching this, and I did type in there, doesn't she look like the Grinch? Because, yeah, truly looks like the Grinch. How could Melody use someone else's diaphragm? That's disgusting. They just pass the diaphragm around from one person to the next. It's like that show, Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants, but it's Sisterhood of the Traveling Diaphragm. Oh my God. Who has the diaphragm now? Aunt Martha. Aunt Martha has the diaphragm. Looks. Oh, looks like she's wearing a mouth guard. Oh, for the ones that don't know the trial, wait till you meet Aunt Martha. Oh my God, she's a doll. She is the best. I've been hanging out in too many overly polite chat rooms. Oh, we've never been accused of that here, Shrez. Oh, God, we've never. Oh. Oh, my God. And why it was even a part of the trial. Well, when I'm not here, yeah. Yeah, with Carl, you watch your P's and Q's, maybe your T's also. I'm going to go and watch Carl because I didn't get to see it. I just had the chat up so I could read it. The Rochelle giggle. She looks like the Grinch or the female chimpanzee from Planet of the Apes. Oh. Maybe my thumbnail tomorrow will have the Grinch on it and the female from Planet of the Apes. Oh. Melody probably has that diaphragm in her just waiting for the judge. Oh, she flirted with that judge like none other through the whole trial. I don't know Carl was even still streaming. I've got 0 notifications from his channel lately. I kind of forgot about him. We literally were talking about this the other day saying, where's Carl? Where's Carl? And there he is today. So the roaming diaphragm. Oh my God. Some of the stuff that is this so random that comes out in trials. Just, oh my God. Well, he did just kind of get married, I think. Yeah, he was practicing on making babies. Can you imagine a little Steinbeck, a little Carl Steinbeck? Boy, oh boy, especially if he's like very black and white like Carl, or she is very black and white like Carl, like straightforward, don't mix words, which I appreciate about Carl. But as Melody says, Fing. Oh my goodness. I can't even with her. for whatever in the universe that deals with justice, please, please, and I'll say this every show, please let Donna Adelson and Sarah Boone end up as cellmates. Please. As fucking I meant. I'm pretty sure that's what you were putting there, Latu. Rochelle will never get sponsors because she swears. That's okay. I live in the real world. All right, guys, I am going to say goodnight. I appreciate you all so very much. I can't even tell you how much. So happy joined us. We've missed you so much, Happy. And I will see you Sunday for our Melody Farris extravaganza. Why not include squealing? Jamie with those two, laugh out loud. Oh, yes. Yeah, but I want Sarah and Donna to share a cell and then put Screaming Jamie in the cell beside them. Oh, God, that'd be wonderful. That would be... Who gets top bunk, I mean? Oh. I'm going to say Donna gets top bunk, but she wouldn't. She'd get bottom bunk because she's older. But I'm thinking that Sarah Boone talks in her sleep like a lot. So if she had bottom bunk, obviously her voice is going to project up, which would annoy Donna. I think Carl only comes out when there's something new to say about Adelson's case. Nothing new lately until tonight because Donna's hearing is coming up. Tuesday. Who is most likely to wet the bed? Sarah? Donna likes to cook and bake and stuff, so maybe Sarah can teach her how to make toilet wine. Yep. Now that's strategizing. Good point, Shiraz. Yep. Who is most likely to wet the bed? Oh. I gotta go back and watch because Latu, I seen that Carl pulled up your thing about people talking to about Donna tutoring and stuff. I wanted to hear what he said about that. Oh, guys, you are a great bunch. I appreciate you so much. You have no idea. So I will see you Sunday at noon. We'll start and we'll do our marathon at noon and we'll go right through. Yes, you and Patty. I don't want to name anyone. Oh, I didn't know Patty. I didn't know Patty was talking to Donna too. Thank you, Rochelle, for sharing this Grinch who murdered her husband in a burn pile. Thanks for the laughs and chat, everyone. Have a good night, everyone, and good weekend. You have a great weekend too, Rosemary. I didn't know Patty was talking to her too. But yeah, tutoring. She misses being a teacher. But all right, I'm going to say good night, everyone. Thank you so much. I appreciate you. And see you Sunday.